Welcome into Sportstime. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. Landon Schmidt producing. We're with you for the next 3 hours and a lot to get into this afternoon. The Grizzlies, they were in action on the road last night. Unfortunately, snapped their win streak with a loss against the New York Knicks. We'll talk about that. We got to talk some NFL, some college football. We got to talk Tigers. We got to talk some college basketball, some fun games last night, some really good games coming up tonight as well. So a lot to get into. But Brett, how are you this afternoon?
Brian, I'm doing really well, and tonight back into a lot more college basketball. But that was a good one last night, late in Tucson between Iowa State and Arizona, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday. That's not close to normally a game Iowa State would be playing, and I think it showed a little bit. And this is not anything close to vintage Arizona. So with all this realignment, we're getting some matchups, and you're going to get it tomorrow night. You know, Texas comes to Oxford tomorrow night, and Chris Beard finally plays. A place where he once coached.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game tomorrow night, and certainly plenty of storylines to go around with that one. But yeah, last night, really good game. You know, Arizona needed a prayer at the end of the game. Caleb Love, who's been really up and down this season, but when he's on, he's a terrific player, takes a ton of shots, but is a shot maker. He drains the near half-court shot, and they go to overtime, and Arizona's really able to dominate in that overtime. Outscored them 15-4 in overtime. They got all that momentum with that shot, and they were able to win one at home, and Arizona's really been rolling right now since start of conference play.
Certainly not for us, but for a lot of the country. I think this weekend, a lot of people will really wake up to college basketball. Last weekend was the first weekend of college game day for basketball, and it will continue. And this weekend, no college, no pro, no NFL, no football, and I think a lot of people's brains will turn on college basketball, setting it up like that. So, but we've been engaged since practice started in October, and the season started Monday, November 4th. But for somebody that hadn't been plugged in, how would you describe this start to this 24-25 season as great, vintage, the state of college basketball to you?
I'd say it's in a really good place right now. I'd say it's great right now. I mean, with what you have with some of the teams at the conferences. I mean, you look at the SEC and how any game, any team can win, any team can lose. You look at how freshmen are back and being extremely productive, and you look at some of the teams that historically have been good over the last decade or so. That Michigan State, I guess, is the team I'm really referencing. That last year, the year before that, not their best years. They're back. I think certainly plenty of storylines. I think college basketball is in a really good place right now.
To be decided if we get a three-peat in the NFL, but I think the verdict's in. We're not getting a three-peat in college basketball.
It certainly doesn't look like it right now. I never want to bet against UConn and what they've done over the last couple of years until they're completely out. But
if they do it'll be more like the first one than last year. We highly suspected this time last year. We had somebody going back-to-back for the first time since Florida. Now to go 3 in a row would be the first time since UCLA and their gobble wins.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
Way back.
But as long as Dan Hurley is alive, I'm never going to completely count him out. But it certainly would be. It would be a lot tougher to do this year than last year. Absolutely.
And this weekend, Saturday, when a lot of brains click on to college basketball or re-engage to college basketball, February 1st, I think a lot of February 1st, it feels like there's 20 teams that can win it. It really feels like it this time, though, doesn't it?
It does. It feels like it more than most years, and I think that's what's great about it this year.
We're talking about UConn.
No, yeah. I mean, you kind of knew about this point. Yeah, they're going to make another deep run, and this year it feels wide open. It feels like there's maybe almost double-digit teams that could go on real runs and make at least the Final Four.
If this week in the AP Top 25, if it's any barometer. Well, Auburn, they've been to a Final Four. They've never won it. Duke second, we know. Third, Iowa State, been to a Final Four a long time ago, never won it. Alabama went to their first Final Four last year, never won it. Florida, the back-to-backs, but been a while since a Final Four type go for it year for Florida. Houston, the travails of Houston under Guy V and Kelvin Sampson. Been to Final Fours, been to Final Four with Kelvin Sampson, never won it. Michigan State and Izzo hadn't won it since 2000. Yeah. Big Ten hadn't won it since 2000. Marquette, long time ago with Al McGuire, Final Four with D. Wade. Purdue last year, Final Four, never won it. That's the top 10.
Yeah.
Then you get into teams like Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Rick Pitino and St. John's. Yeah. None of those have ever won it, and Texas A&M's never been to a Final Four. The other two have.
Yeah, and I mean it feels very wide open, and I mean you look at it. I mean Kansas sitting there at 11, or would they be a team that could make a real run? It feels like they're always in there in the hunt, but yeah, I mean it's fun to see Vanderbilt back in the top 25. I think I was reading when they got back in the top 25 on Monday, first time since 2015 they were in the top 25, something like that. I mean it is
never been to a Final Four. Vanderbilt.
Yeah. It's a really fun year in college hoops, I think.
I don't know that Vandy's ever been to an 8, maybe once, but never to a Final Four. And last year, Bill Self in the NCAA tournament just kind of folded them.
Yeah.
This isn't our year. Too bad.
Right.
I wonder if down the stretch he does that again.
Yeah, I hope not. I think you can get away with that once. I don't know if you can get away with that multiple times. But yeah, I'm looking up Vanderbilt. An Elite Eight run in 1965. All right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Been a while.
Yeah.
Sweet 16 in 2007.
It was a different Nashville then, wasn't it?
It was a very different Nashville.
It was a different lot of things.
Oh, man. Yeah, well, boy, was it. But
I did not realize they had. Yeah. Now, that was a very limited tournament. I'm going to say the whole field probably wasn't 24 teams. In 65.
I mean, you get in, you got a really good opportunity of making the Elite Eight.
Yeah, just make a little bit of noise.
That's right, win a couple games.
Kind of show up.
That's hilarious. Yeah, but no, I think college basketball is in a really, really good spot right now. I think it's been a great year.
All right, that was a pasting at the Garden last night.
Yeah.
We can roll out. It just counts one.
Sure.
But I think some of the freak out of, when the Grizzlies play a good team, it's a little much. Now, last night was a splattering.
Mm-hmm. It was. And, I think the biggest question, I think Taylor Jenkins talked about it again last night, is when this Grizzlies team meets physical teams, and you knew Thibs was going to have his guys ready, and it was going to be an all-out game. We know that he throws his guys out there and wants them to play complete games and, zero rest, and it's going to be difficult for the other team. And we saw that last night, and, now you've seen the first 3 games against the Rockets. Every time out, it's been, they were just more physical than we were, and they out-physicaled us. And then same thing last night against the Knicks, you got out-physicaled. And I think that's the biggest thing, is you're seeing these teams that are out-physical, or are being way more physical than you, and then you've got the mistakes like the turnovers. I mean, to see 26 turnovers by this Grizzlies team,
it's epidemic.
It's epidemic, Brett, and it's between NBA and college. They limited it against UAB, the Tigers did, but I mean, I saw DeMichael Cole tweet it.
The Grizzlies started. I'm going to say the Grizzlies started
I would say so.
The pandemic of turnovers
in
Memphis.
So. It started with the Grizzlies. It somehow crept over to
Is
the
there
Tigers.
A known cure?
I hope so. Maybe the Tigers tapped into it against
2-shot regimen or one?
I don't know. We got to figure something out, Brett. Maybe you can be the turnover Fauci and make all the decisions. I don't know.
Please no.
But no, I mean, it's one game, like you said, but I do think, some of these issues, like I mentioned, I think DeMichael Cole tweeted out earlier today that the Grizzlies are dead last in the NBA in turnovers per game. And that's something when you talk about a team that wants to make a run in the playoffs, you can't be dead last in pretty much anything, certainly not turnovers.
Brevin Knight captured he was the voice of my discontent watching the game last night. and I'm not talking about somebody throwing a punch, but I didn't see a lot of fight back.
Yeah. I'm with you. You know, it looked
And
like
that was bothering him.
It looked like a couple of guys were really, disinterested last night. I think, John Morant, the game he had, it was just a game that got away from him very early, and he didn't seem locked in.
Curious,
only 27 minutes, 10 points. He was a minus 41 in the plus minus. Just not a really good game for him, and he sat for a lot of that second half. Just was not very productive, and you look at some of the other guys, and it just did not feel like everybody was locked in last night. And when, again, it's fine to go out there, and I'm not in the camp. I've seen it a lot today, like you mentioned, of the outrage of, well, when the Grizzlies see a good team and, they can't compete. I'm not there, but it's one thing to go out and roll past, 3-0 sweep against three teams that are under 500 at home. That's great. You should do that when you're where the Grizzlies are at. But I want to see you go out and beat the Knicks on the road. I want you to be competitive. I want you to go out and be able to beat the Rockets that are right there with you in the standings, and the Grizzlies have had trouble doing that.
They have, and they did. Now, there is a lot, too. The margin, though, hurts this.
Yeah.
It's just one game.
Yeah.
But if you're going to have that kind of game, but that was rough.
And I think this is also one of those, you can play this in any scenario, and you can always say this, and when do you really get out of this as being kind of the logic? But, it's one game, and if this becomes something more down the road, then I think it's more of an issue. But I think we can say it's a one-off. I hope we can say it's a one-off. I think Thursday night, playing the Hornets at home on national television, if you get another game like this, then maybe you have some concern. If they can bounce back and finally get that win over the Rockets and be more physical and limit some of these issues like the turnovers, then maybe you can say, it was a one-off. You're on the road. You 6-game win streak. You knew it was going to snap eventually. You hate that it was in the fashion it was against the team it was, but move on. And this is still a really good team.
It is, and get back home now and get ready for Thursday night and a little late January Super Bowl kind of.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big one,
Got a big one.
It feels like you've been trying to get over that hump of the Rockets all season, and this jump that the Rockets have been on, it's been really fun. They beat the Celtics last night, and they got to go back out there tonight, a makeup game from a couple weeks ago when we had that winter storm roll through that also affected Atlanta. Their game got canceled.
That's right. That's add-in.
So they'll play that game tonight. So they'll be on a little less rest than the Grizzlies will be Thursday night. But this is a really good Hornets team, and they're playing with a lot of momentum right now. And so you would certainly love to, at least get 1 out of 4 against the Rockets.
How much of Senior Bowl workouts have you watched today?
I haven't watched any. I'll be honest. I have not been able to catch it.
I watched a couple of drills.
Yeah, I
wish I did. A lot on NFL Network.
Of course. I'll probably be more locked in, tomorrow and into the week. But no, I saw there's
a lot of Twitch foot talk today.
Of course.
Feet.
I love it. I saw Tej Johnson was looking good out there in some of the drills. There was a highlight going around of Seth Hennigan. Someone posted and said it was the best ball of the day that they saw and it was from Seth. So, I've seen a couple of things, but I've certainly not been as locked in today.
What do you think his best throw he made?
Oh man. I don't know. Do you have one?
I thought he threw the deep ball really well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and his deep ball was really good.
No, not to a player, just mechanics wise.
Yeah, he had a pretty good deep ball. Yeah. Maybe that kind of, over the middle throw, just kind of
one step, fog it on a slant.
10-yard slant. I thought that was a really good ball by him.
He did, and he would. I mean, he'd put some smoke on it.
He would. No,
and you have
absolutely
to.
Well, you do. And but no, my favorite deep ball out of the last 4 quarterbacks was Riley Ferguson for the Tigers. I mean, Riley Ferguson.
At Ole Miss, Matt Corral. I thought Matt threw the deep ball a little better than Dart did. I thought Dart threw the ball on the move a little better than Matt Corral.
Yeah. It sounds like Jackson Dart, I mean, this could be a really big week for him
Critical.
at the Senior Bowl. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people talking about he's the guy this year in the draft cycle that could have that really massive boost.
The momentum to move up, and any talk of returning not happening now. 'Cause I think when you sign for the Senior Bowl, you get paid, and that is effective that you are a pro. I think.
I think that is right.
Yeah, because I know they get paid.
Yeah. Well, good for them. So yeah, I mean, a big week for them, and certainly for those two quarterbacks.
And that was remote talk.
Yeah.
That was really draft stock plunging.
Sure.
And it's done anything but that.
It's the exact opposite. I mean, he is maybe one of the hotter names right now in terms of
And I think for him, I don't know this. This is just pure my view of it. I think he was one of those that, okay, I did the college thing. I did it really well, too.
Yeah.
A little bit like Seth Hennigan. It's time to move the drill a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are a lot of guys coming to that point where, you've had your fun, you've done enough, and you want to take that next step. So, it'll be fun watching both those guys and all the guys at the Senior Bowl later this week. Well, we got a lot to get to today. Let me set up today's show before we get to top and not top story of the day. 3:30, Matt Infield from Action News 5. He'll join us to talk some Tigers. We'll have to recap what happened over the weekend against UAB. We'll also get to what this week looks like, a road game against Tulane, and then on the road against Rice on Sunday. We'll do that in our next segment with Matt Infield. 3:45, we'll talk more about the Grizzlies and their 143-106 loss against the New York Knicks. 4 o'clock, Brent Beard from First Coast News down in Jacksonville. He'll join us to talk some college football. We'll talk a little bit more about the national championship game, maybe some of the ratings talk a lot of people have gotten into over the last week or so. We'll get to a lot off-season talk with Brent, talk a little bit about some of the guys in the Senior Bowl. We'll do that at 4 o'clock. 4:30, we'll talk some college basketball. It was a really good night. Last night it ended with a bang in that Arizona and Iowa State game, but a really good night tonight as well. Tennessee, Kentucky gets started here in a couple of hours, so good night at hoops. We'll talk about that at 4:30. 4:45, we'll get to big number of the day. 5 o'clock, Bo Marchant will join us to talk the NFL. He'll be at the Senior Bowl like he is every single year this weekend, so we'll talk with him about that, and certainly I'm sure next week get a full report of everything he sees down there. And then at 5:45 we'll wrap up today's show like we always do with Crunch Time. Let me remind you, we're in our Family Leisure studios where family and fun come together. Get over to Family Leisure for the floor model sale. All 2024 inventory has to go. Help them make room for 2025. All floor models are up to 50% off. Cold plunge tubs are starting at $49.99 and hot tubs up to $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Pool tables, arcades, ping pong tables, air hockey, foosball tables, all 20 to 60% off. And don't forget about theater seating, now up to 75% off. It's also not too early to start thinking about pool season. Buy now and get on the schedule for install before the rush hits. Only at Family Leisure, 2120 Whitten Road, just north of I-40.
Produced by Landon Schmidt, we are Sportstime. He's Brian, I'm Brett. We're with you until 6 o'clock. We want you to be a part of our show by texting or calling 901-360-8255. That's the Sissy's Log Cabin text and talk number, and all our guests will appear on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line at 901-360-8255. Always from our Family Leisure studios. And this hour always brought to you by the one and only Lexus dealership in town. That is Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Great offers on all 2025 models and always special leasing options. Call them at 901-334-9673, but stop by at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of the all-new 2025 flagship LS500, and you'll be looking and you'll be driving in style. Drive in luxury and confidence, knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first, and second maintenance services. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and they make for the luxury, safe driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, my top story of the day, it's got to be the Grizzlies and their 143-106 loss against the Grizzlies. It was back and forth early, but really, in the second quarter, the Knicks really started to put their pedal to the metal, that foot on the gas, and really never let up.
Thibodeau wanted blood.
Oh, oh man. I mean, he wanted to prove a point, and he did. 42 points in the third quarter, 41 points in the fourth quarter. You started feeling like it was going to happen late in the second quarter. Then really after halftime, it was all Knicks, and
there's no running it up in the NBA, is there?
No, not at all.
Nobody can ever claim it.
No, I don't think so.
If you do, you're soft fuming.
That's right. That's exactly right. And there were even points. I was talking about this earlier.
If you do, sports really may not be your thing.
Yeah, it might not. But I was talking about this earlier. I mean, there was a time, I guess late third quarter, maybe early fourth quarter, where the Grizzlies cut it to 9-point game, 10-point game. I mean, they were inside double digits.
Don't remember it.
Never felt like. Well, the only reason I noticed is because I was at Huey's. There was a table behind me who I think had a lot of money on the game for whatever reason. The way they were talking about it, the way they were getting very excited, sounded like they had money on the game. It sounded like more than just fandom speaking. And at one point, one of them goes, "Well, look, it's only a 9-point game." And I go, wait a minute, what? And I looked up, and it was like a 9-point game in the third quarter.
It felt like 19.
Yeah, and that's my point. It never felt like the Grizzlies were going to get back in that game. And just as close as they got, it was as quick as they got back behind by a lot. It was all Knicks last night.
I'm interrupting you, but isn't it palpable out everybody betting on the games?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, and you can feel it, when it's just a fan,
or
it's somebody that has money on it. And very, very clearly last night, this table behind me, they had some money on the game. But I mean, your hope is that this is a one-off. Your hope is that this is just, bad night on the road against a good Knicks team. A team that's 16-8 at home. They're very good at Madison Square Garden. We'll see how they respond Thursday night in a big one against the Rockets.
Trust me when I say this. Most of my top story, I do not mean it accusatory. Okay. I do not mean it with any animus whatsoever. It is mostly question, speculation. Why? Okay. Here it is. Right. The Tigers, 16-4, ranked 19th in AP in every bracket from every bracketologist you can find. Arguably the best Tigers team since the 3 Kings or 4 Kings?
I think it was 4, wasn't it? I think it was 4
Kings. Okay, since all the Kings they once had, that ended up being a 30-win season. I think in 2012, 2013. This team could approach that. This team could approach being a 30-win team. We know there are 11 left. Probably 2 or 3 at Dickies Arena, and then whatever happens in the NCAA tournament. We know that there are only 15 teams in all of college basketball with less losses than Memphis. We know big wins over Hurley, Izzo, Beard, at Clemson. I say at San Francisco, at Virginia. We also know that a big win last time out. But why no crowds? Why no crowds? Don't believe the box score. We know better. And it'll all be reconciled when we get the official scan count. I could give it every day. It would match perfectly for whenever that public access records comes out. That is pure gobbledygook that's produced every night, saying averaging around 10,000 or whatever it's saying. There are now, 5 home games left. This should be the stretch of the season of scan count. No doubt about 15,000 plus. And if not, why not?
Yeah, it is a good question.
What would be the number one reason of why not for you, Brian?
I don't know. I don't think I have a why not. I mean,
there's a couple of factors. I think it's the conference. There's nothing to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not changing for a while, we know.
Yeah. I think if I put myself in some of my friends' shoes, I think the Grizzlies are a factor to it.
Certainly.
Of
a
you
factor.
know, if I'm gonna go to a game and spend tickets or money on
the Grizzlies
tickets,
are drawing.
Yeah.
I mean, on back-to-back raw cold nights, the Grizzlies drew.
Yeah.
The Tigers don't.
Yeah. And I think it can be a little bit of both, because I think if you're, Tigers or Grizzlies, I think, obviously NBA, but also do I want to go see the Tigers play Charlotte, So I think it can be a little bit of both.
I know there's still a lot of interest in Tiger basketball. I don't know that it's intense.
That's a good question.
Not top story of the day.
Well, my not top story of the day, it is Tiger basketball. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. They continue to move up in the AP Top 25 poll, now at number 19. So inside that top 20, they had the dominant win that we talked about yesterday against UAB. But now, back-to-back road games for the Tigers, and I think they have to be perfect over these next couple of games. When you look at these next 3 games, before they get that rematch with Temple, which was the team they lost to in conference, on the road against Tulane, on the road against Rice, home against Tulsa. So on the road against Tulane, it should be 3-0. Tulane has been tough in the past, but this is a much different Tulane team. I know they're playing better in conference play. They should dominate this week against Tulane. They should dominate Rice on the road. And Tulsa,
I'll just say win. I won't even say dominate. Just win.
Just win, but I think they should dominate against these teams, especially after what we saw against UAB. I think they should dominate these teams. And then back home against Tulsa, Tulsa might be the worst team in the conference. One of the worst teams, certainly, in the conference. Yeah, honestly. And PJ Haggerty sees his old team. I'm sure he'll want to go out and make a splash.
My not top story, Grizzlies smashed at the Garden. 37 that felt like 37. Never close. One game, but great wins at Boston, Dallas, Phoenix. So enough of when they play someone good, they melt. That's not it. 6-game win streak blew up last night. Now time for another streak. How about a 4-game win streak, starting with Houston Thursday night, and then lead into Super Bowl Eve, the night before, February 8th, night before the Super Bowl, at home against Oklahoma City. Good measuring stick game.
Very good measuring stick game. But let's go ahead and get to our first break of the day. When we return, we're going to talk some more Tigers, Tiger basketball, and we'll do that next with Matt Infield.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11, here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Through the end of January, Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2025 items are starting to arrive. All floor models are up to 50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even football tables from 20 to 60% off. Want piercing? Leisure has theater seating up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool season. You can buy it now, get on the installation schedule, and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. If you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell the phone staff at Family Leisure that you heard this commercial. It's the floor model show. Now, through the end of January, Family Leisure, we run it I-40, family and fun come together.
Colin Coward here with Pro
Pro tight end Dallas Goedert to share his journey with plaque psoriasis and how he tackles his symptoms with Otezla apremilast.
Yeah, being a football player with plaque psoriasis can be challenging. My skin gets flaky and itchy, so my doctor told me about a pill, Otezla. It works from the inside out.
Otezla is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months. Dallas is an Otezla patient that has been compensated for his time. Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms, severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts.
Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
If you're struggling with plaque psoriasis, talk to your doctor about Otezla. Visit Otezla.com for more information or call 1-844-OTEZLA for prescribing info about cost, and more.
For 75 years, Americans have been falling in love with Volkswagen, and we've got it Volkswagen Germantown. Hey, what's up over there, Marty McMahon?
Any of these big savings, take your pick lane from a 2025 Jetta Sport or 2024 Volkswagen Taos SE, $249 a month.
Jetta or Taos, $249 a month. What else you got?
2024 Tiguan S or 2025 Jetta SE, $279 a month.
Tiguan S or Jetta SE, $279 a month?
That's right. And all 2024 Atlas XEL Peak Edition, $5,000 off MSRP.
So get to Gossett Volkswagen Germantown and ask for Marty McMahon.
Remember, your future is what you make it.
That's Gossett Volkswagen Germantown, 7420 Winchester Road. Online, GossettVWG.com.
Good afternoon. They were removing some debris a few minutes ago, just up from the 101 connector at 40 West, right there before you get to Watkins. Traffic's on the increase already out here coming out of Midtown, 240 southbound at South Parkway. It was running a little bit slow a few minutes ago in the construction zone. We haven't seen this in a while. 55 northbound, trying to get up past Mallory all the way up to South Parkway. Weimer's Jewelry, 7525. Highway 64 is your Valentine's Day headquarters. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios, and joining us now to talk some Tigers, Matt Infield from Action News 5 joins us now. Matt, thanks so much for joining us. The Tigers, they had that dominant game in conference play that a lot of people had been waiting to see after a couple scary finishes, certainly that game earlier in the week against Wichita State, but a nearly perfect showing on Sunday against UAB.
Yeah, I think that when you look at their two best conference performances, it's probably not hard to set the theme here. On the road at FAU, the conference opener, a team that has been Memphis's quote-unquote rival the last couple of years, obviously with the NCAA tournament history. Probably not too hard to get up for that game, even if, no one was on that tournament team on this year's team. And then UAB, the preseason pick to win the conference, the defending AAC tournament champions, and even P.J. Haggerty kind of couldn't hold back. He said it wasn't personal, and then immediately admitted it was a little personal. And, I know for a fact a lot of guys in the program took that game personally and as an opportunity to make a statement. So, like we've talked about a bunch, when they come out focused and ready to play, they're easily the best team in this conference. There's no question about it. It's just about getting up for the Wichita States and the East Carolinas and the North Texases and whatnot. So, all in all, good week, obviously, and you'll take the 2 wins, and now you just hope that they can keep the pedal to the metal and, have more performances like that against some of these lesser teams.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dane Danger got moved to the starting lineup and was fantastic in that game. He did foul out late in the second half, but 10 for 12 from the field, 21 points. He was close to a career high, added 8 rebounds, a block, a steal. I think a lot of people had been asking, wondering why Dane Danger had been on the bench, but it certainly looked like a good move for Penny to move him back to the starting lineup. What did you think of that move and what Dane Danger did against UAB?
Yeah, from what I've gathered, I feel like the reason he was on the bench was one, to give that unit a little bit more juice. Two, I think Penny wants to see maybe a little bit more from Dane outside of the scoring stuff in terms of taking care of the ball and defensively and things like that, which is all well and good. But I think that, against a team like UAB, where the bigs be taken advantage of, I think that it worked out really well. Dane is one of, if not the most skilled big guy in the country. And I think that when you have him out there, alongside P.J. Haggerty, Tyrese Hunter, and Colby Rogers, it really becomes kind of a pick-your-poison situation because, if you're going to switch on Dane Danger, when they run, let's say, a high-low pick-and-roll, if you put a small guy on Dane Danger, he's going to make you pay. If you put a big guy on a P.J. Haggerty or Tyrese Hunter, they're probably going to eat them alive as well. So, yeah, I think that Dane showed what he is fully capable of, and if he plays like that the rest of the way, conference play, conference tournament, NCAA tournament, then all of a sudden this team probably jumps up another tier or two into how scary they can be.
Oh, so that is a great breakdown of it, Matt. I so agree. And with that, with your access and you talking to these players, how good do you think they are, and what kind of run do you think they can go on, that they think they can go on?
I mean, everyone I've talked to on Penny's show or just press conferences and whatnot, and guys that have won before, they think this team is capable of something special. Obviously the tournament is the most random playoff system probably in American sports, so they can be capable of something special and they can still get knocked out, in the first game because that's just kind of how it works. But Ty, they've got guys on the team that have won at a high level before. We talked to Dane Danger. He was our feature interview on Penny's show this past Sunday. Dane was on that Baylor team that won the national championship in 2021. He redshirted because he was hurt, but he still saw what it took. And, he was part of the Illinois team last year that I said if they don't play UConn, if they don't run the UConn, there's a non-zero chance they're in the national championship game. That was a really, really stacked team as well. Tyrese Hunter is someone who's won at a high level, been to the Elite Eight before, on the verge of the Final Four. So, yeah, all these guys seem to think that they're capable of something special. And I don't necessarily think that it's lip service because they've shown that when they play at their peak or something close to it, they can beat anyone in the country. So it's just about stringing that together and getting the matchups right, and hopefully you get a good team in the tournament. But, yeah, I think that they think that they can make a real run in March.
Matty, very, very interesting. You talk about the randomness of the NCAA tournament, really the fragility of it with good teams. And I always said death taxes in no 16 would ever beat a 1, and since I've said that, 2 have defeated the 1. So so much for that. Let's just go back to death and taxes as the only certainties in life. And you're right. You run into that St. Benedict, St. Leo, St. whoever team. You run into Oakland last year like Kentucky did, and on that afternoon, and you might be playing at a random time. Very rarely you play in basketball at 11:30 in the morning in a mostly empty arena at a lot of those early NCAA tournament games, and you run into that team that makes 9 or 10 double-digit threes, and you're in big trouble. So, do you think it is the most random championship to win, and does it always produce the best team to win it?
I don't think so. It's a good question. I think that early on it is probably the most random tournament. I could probably make the argument that as far as crowning a champion, you could probably argue baseball's playoffs, and I think some years, maybe not as much recently with a quarterback caliber of Patrick Mahomes in the NFL, and going back, obviously, the Patriots, Vinay, Tom Brady. But, the NFL could get a little bit wacky in their playoff system as well. I'm thinking kind of to, the Rams-Bengals Super Bowl a couple of years ago that no one saw coming. But I think baseball, maybe as far as crowning a champion, maybe a little more random. But you do see at the end of every NCAA tournament, for the most part, you look up and maybe not the entirety of the Final Four. I'm thinking of like an NC State last year, a St. Peter's type team that you mentioned before from a couple of years ago. But I do think that we look up at the end of March and say, one of the 3 or 4 best teams won. And I think the last 2 years, obviously, the juggernaut that has been UConn, clearly the most deserving team has won. So early on, I would say it is the most random tournament. But I think you can make an argument that as far as the totality of it and crowning a champion, it might not be.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier when talking about Dane Danger that maybe part of the reason that he had been coming off the bench was to give that bench group kind of a little bit of juice, give him a scoring option, and he certainly did that. I think that was my question going into Sunday's game when it was put out there that he was going to start is, okay, who is now going to produce for you off the bench? So a two-part question here for you. P.J. Carter went out there, had 14 points. You look at what he's done over the last 2 or 3 games. It feels like maybe starting to gain some confidence, especially in that shot. What do you think about him as a scoring option off the bench going forward? And then watching that game, notice Dante Harris did not play. Penny Hardaway has spoke very highly of him since that addition mid-season. I know he's also kind of been dealing with some injuries. What was the reasoning behind him not playing on Sunday?
So actually, I don't know the reason. To answer the second part, I'll go backwards here.
Yeah.
Answer the second part. I'm not sure why he didn't play. I will say I kind of think he and Baraka Okoji's skill sets overlap a little bit to where if you're going to give one of them minutes, are you just kind of duplicating it
right
by giving them both significant minutes? And, at that point, is the juice worth the squeeze? I think Petty thinks Dante is a little better on-ball defender. I think Dante might be better at kind of the pure point guard stuff, but Baraka is probably more athletic and maybe gives you a little more scoring punch. It's not a ton, obviously, but I would guess that he's kind of trying to tinker with, okay, do I play Baraka or do I play Dante? Because, it's just kind of the skill sets are close enough to where I'm not sure you can really justify playing both of them any sort of significant minutes, one. To answer the first part of your question, I think P.J. Carter is probably the answer. I think the thing that I've seen recently, you saw it a little bit in the Wichita game, and then you saw more of it against UAB on Sunday. To me, the real sign that we're seeing growth in him that can be sustainable, where he can give them that scoring punch off the bench, it's not just that he's making his catch-and-shoot threes. You're seeing him put the ball on the deck a little bit more, kind of be aggressive, trying to get to the rim, and score in other ways besides just catch-and-shoot threes beyond the three-point line. So that would be a welcome development for sure, because I think that for a lot of seasons, we're thinking of him as just kind of a sharpshooter from beyond the arc. But if he can kind of expand his skill set and become a threat, putting the ball on the floor and scoring, getting to the rim, then that can be a real kind of threat off the bench that gives you more options as well.
Yeah.
Matt, historically, I'm not much of a turn it on, turn it off guy because I'll always am in fear of that when you got it off and you're trying to get back on, you have trouble finding the light and finding the switch. I do think this team, with its near misses and kind of disinterested games and, kind of letting big leads get away, I do think this team is the exception. I think they know when to turn it on, and they've shown it. 20's a big body of work, 16-4. They've turned it on plenty of times when they needed it. I can't think of maybe the Mississippi State game is when they just couldn't find the light switch at all.
Yeah, I think the thing to me that kind of stands out is I'm with you. Turning and flipping the switch and relying on that is dangerous because there are going to be games where you try to flip the switch and you don't have your best stuff, and all of a sudden, we're in a really big hole that we can't dig ourselves out of. That being said, I think that when they have come into games interested and focused and energized, the big games basically, they have basically been on from the jump. The Mississippi State game is one that comes to mind. You're right. And I'll be honest, I did not watch the entirety of that game because I was home for a wedding that weekend. But that is probably the one that comes to mind if you think about all the games in Maui and even the Auburn game. I think the Auburn game, they showed up. It's just that Auburn is probably a top 2 or 3 team in the country when they're healthy, and they just got outclassed that day. But the Maui game, the Ole Miss game, I'm not even going to say the Virginia game was a turn it on, turn off game. I think that's just, the Cavaliers play a very kind of muck it up style, and they're at home, and you got to kind of feel them out a little bit. But I'm with you. I think that they can turn it on for the most part in conference play against teams they are clearly superior to, even if that is a dangerous game you're playing. And when they know they are playing a team that is of their caliber or better, they show up to play. So I'm kind of with you in the sense of I'm not too worried in that regard for the most part.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Last thing for you, I know we usually keep it to Tigers here, but Grizzlies last night, the loss against the Knicks, there's been a lot of outrage today about Grizzlies can't beat good teams. Where are you after last night's game?
Yeah, full disclosure, I'm a Flagpole Knicks fan, so I stayed neutral last night, though. I didn't say anything. But here's the thing. I mean, the Knicks can score with the best of them. I know the Grizzlies statistically have the best offense in the NBA, but the Knicks are very high up there as well. And, when Brunson and Bridges and Towns and Anunoby are all cooking, I mean, it's a tough offense to stop, especially at home. I do think there's some legitimacy to it. The Grizzlies do have the win in Boston, but when you look at the other top teams in the West, their one loss to OKC is excusable because they're on the road. Ja was hurt. They had a million injuries. But, they've lost all 3 games to Houston so far this year. They lost a game at home to the Nuggets without Jokic. They've lost twice to the Lakers. Lost to the Clippers. Dallas, they gave up a big lead on the road and lost. Their one win against Dallas was without Kyrie and Luka. So I think there's some legitimacy to it. And there's still time to figure it out. But I would like to see them win on Thursday against Houston. That feels like a pretty big kind of barometer for where they really deadline next week. But you're facing a team that's kind of punked you a little bit so far this season. Nationally televised game. They have a couple of guys on that roster that used to be big factors for you. I think the Grizzlies are a good team, but I think that you would probably be a little bit worried in a playoff series right now against most of the best teams in the West right now. So, I think that it is a concern, and it's one that hopefully they can, stop the bleeding with a little bit Thursday night.
Yeah, feels like Thursday is a very big game against the Rockets. Matt, as always, thanks so much for joining us. We'll do it again next week.
All right, John, we'll talk to you guys next week. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt Infield, with us every week from Action News 5. And I think a really good analysis. I know a lot of people are driving along when we were going through those losses and the engagement factor and the switch on. We're saying, what about Arkansas State? What about Arkansas State? I didn't bring it up because I'm going to go back to what I said the day after. Other than brand and his historical significance for 24-25, that wasn't a bad loss.
No, not a bad loss at all. I mean, Arkansas State's a really
get over it being Arkansas State.
Yeah.
If they get in the tournament as that 12 or 13 seed, look out somebody.
Yeah, no, they could definitely pull an upset, make some noise. That they could be that team this year, and I think we've seen it. And if you're paying attention to them, the talent they've brought in, that coach they have, they have that kind of build up. They have that make of being that type of team.
I don't think the Tigers have a bad loss. I accept Temple on the road in conference, okay. Sure. And when Pearl and Auburn, when one shiny moment's playing, they got nets around their necks. Are we gonna be mad about that?
Yeah. You look at I was watching a video last night that popped up on my social media, and it was one of these guys that says, in the last 15 years, this has to happen for you to be a national champion, and in the last 10, whatever the breakdown is, Auburn was the only team that fit the criteria. I mean, so
every check
very well could be the last team standing. Not many people find
they
success
need good
against
help.
them.
And one of their motivations will be when they get in the tournament, and Bruce Pearl he'll have it he'll have it a big sign. Instead of let's be champions today, it'll be remember Yale.
Yeah, let's beat Yale. Let's get through that first. Now, I mean, they're a very talented team, and Bruce Pearl, he's going to coach them hard, and they're not going to forget about what happened last year. So, not a bad loss at all. Let's go ahead and get to another break. When we come back, we got to talk about a loss from last night. The Grizzlies in New York against the Knicks. We'll talk about that loss, what it means. We'll do that next on Sports Time.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Shop, compare, and save from hundreds of
Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat start something new sales event on the pike. We got it covered in 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer L Series 3, $23,156 off MSRP and 0% for 36, or 3.9 for 72 months is available. 2023 Jeep Renegade Upland 4-wheel drive Sport, $309 a month. Buy it for $23,723. And power up in 2025 Ram 1500 Bighorn, $13,758 off MSRP or $629 a month. Plus all 2023 models, you can save up to $16,906 off. So drive past the rest, come to the best. Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat. Online, GossettMotorCars.net. If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motorcars. 145, 331, MSRP 123, 155. Renegade Triple P 57, 256, MSRP 31095. Ram SN 544, 525, MSRP 56, 825. Includes all rebates and incentives and excludes PF 695. Excludes tax title and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Dealer stock only. Now, Sports Time. This hour is brought to you by Lexus Cars. Here are your hosts, Sports Movie and Brian Gates.
All right, well, we talked about it earlier. We touched on it a little bit with Matt Infield, but last night, not a fun game to watch if you were a Grizzlies fan. 6-game win streak, Grizzlies rolling right along. Then they run into a buzzsaw that is the New York Knicks. 143-106, a game where 3 starters for the Knicks had 20 or more points, 3 guys off the bench in double figures, and really, last night, not a lot of production from really anybody on the Grizzlies.
It was a laugher, and I go back to the great analyst that we have in this market, Brevin Knight, and he was talking about, he said to Pete, he said, look at that bench, they're all laughing and falling all over themselves. That it was bad. The stat book last night for them. It's just one, and the Grizzlies get a chance to avenge that on Friday night, February 28th, when the New York Knicks make their only trip to FedEx Forum. Okay, so they blast them. Between the 2 games, give me a win Thursday night over that last night.
Yeah, I mean, that feels like one of the bigger games we've had.
Now, I wish Houston had lost to Boston last night, but they didn't.
They are rolling right now and playing really well. But yeah, Thursday's a big game, and we'll see what the Grizzlies can do against this Houston team that they've had no success. I was about to say very little success. They've had no success against them this year, 0-3, and but they'll have to play a lot better than they did last night. I mean, you look at offensively what the Grizzlies did, they did not have a very good game. And then defensively, I mean, you let the Knicks go out there, shoot over 50% from the field, knock down 17 3-pointers. You're going to have to do a lot better if you're going to want to slow down Houston, because if you play that way against Houston, it's going to be copy and paste what we saw last night.
And I know people are thinking, you let the Tigers go and lose commensurate to that last night, and would guys on the radio be kind of that forgiving? Well, probably not, because of the large number of games. I think people ought to be able to understand that over 82, over just almost half that for college. But if the Grizzlies do that Thursday night, then tune in Friday. And if you want to hear somebody rip, we'll have it. But I mean, I don't know how many different ways we say splattered, manhandled, thoroughly whipped.
Yeah. I mean, it was beat down. And, this Rockets team, you look over at what they've done, back-to-back wins over Cleveland, then last night a win on the road at Boston. They've got a road game tonight against Atlanta, makeup game from a couple weeks ago, and then they'll see Memphis. So they're really rolling right now. If they win again tonight, that would be 5 of their last 6 wins. The loss was on MLK Day when they lost to Detroit. So, I mean, they're playing really well right now. They're a really good team. It feels like they're getting a lot of talk about being kind of one of the hottest teams in the NBA, kind of the lookout for team in the NBA. And so, yeah, it'd be big if the Grizzlies could get, at least one out of this 4-game series that they've already played.
And the criticism of, the Grizzlies don't get it like the Tigers do. You let the Grizzlies go out in the first round, and you're going to hear a far different
Yeah.
I think around town take.
Sure, yeah, and I mean, you said it. I mean, it's different lengths of the season, and that means the games.
The runway's just so darn long in that NBA.
I mean, it's just games individually, they count differently, they mean differently, and you look at the competition. I mean,
and I would ask anybody, tell me when we've lost our mind over a Tiger loss this year.
No.
I can tell you there hadn't been a single time of it.
No.
I just mentioned Arkansas State.
No.
I just said I'm still tolerant, okay by however you can put it to the Temple loss.
Yeah. So I mean, no, it's completely different, and yeah, I mean, look, if they go out there and get blasted again by Houston, you're right. On Friday, it's going to be a very different conversation, and
And I go back to my top story. It was not criticism then. It is a question of why.
Mm-hmm.
Give me root cause.
Yeah. It's a good question, and hopefully
of attendance.
Yeah,
and it's not a first year thing. It is. It's back to the 3 or 4 Kings year.
Yeah. Still trying to
figure
figure
out.
out.
I got to get the number of Kings down.
Still trying to figure out how many Kings there actually were. There were a lot of Kings, but no. I mean, we'll see what this Grizzlies team can do Thursday night, nationally televised game against the Houston Rockets. But again, kind of the biggest thing from last night, John Morant, only 27 minutes, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 turnovers, 5 for 13 from the field, a -41. You pair that with 6 turnovers from Desmond Bane. When you talk about that, kind of those 3 guys being the leaders, you have 2 of them when they have kind of stinkers like that. Usually it's not going to be a great game. But we'll see how the Grizzlies bounce back on Thursday. But let's go ahead and wrap up this first hour, and when we return, talking some college football with Brent Beard.
Sometimes you just need to make fast, like the fun that comes from a quick and 2024 Honda CB5 MF. This amazing style streetlights with a narrow 471cc twin, along with sleek GT display, dual disc brakes, and standard ABS, all at your affordable price. Find fun in all wearing flexible 2024 Honda CB5 MF. Available at Desoto Honda, 5656 Wheeler Road, Olive Branch.
Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer lets you easily compare direct rates from different insurance companies, so you can be confident you're getting the right one, even if it's not with Progressive. Way more confident than you were when you tried. Stuff. So use Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer and be confident you're getting insurance that's right for you.
Do you know one of the best things you can do for your employees or family's health? Provide Arctic Clear bottled water. Arctic Clear bottled water is your locally owned and operated bottled water provider. Arctic Clear is 100% natural spring water with free delivery instead of dependable service and no long-term contracts. An easy choice. Call Jeff Metis today, 901-382-2363, or visit arctic-clear.com. Arctic Clear bottled water. Call them 382-2363. That's 382-2363.
New year, new savings during the Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat Start Something New sales event on the bike. We got it covered in 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer L Series 3, $23,156 off MSRP and 0% for 36, or 3.9 for 72 months is available. 2023 Jeep Renegade Upland 4-wheel drive Sport, $309 a month. Buy it for $23,723. And power up in 2025 Ram 1500 Bighorn, $13,758 off MSRP or $629 a month. Plus all 2023 models, you can save up to $16,906 off. So drive past the rest, come to the best. Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat. Online, GossettMotorCars.net.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motorcars.
31, MSRP 123,155. Renegade Triple P 57,256, MSRP 31,095. Ram SN 544,525, MSRP 56,825. Includes all rebates and incentives and excludes PF 695. Excludes tax title and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Dealer stock only.
You know, I think people forget there's a Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
And that's on us.
Well, you.
What does that mean?
Well, you're the spokesperson for Central Barbecue. It's your responsibility to remind people there's a Central Barbecue in South Haven.
It's very convenient that I'm the spokesperson when there's responsibility to be taken.
Just mention the Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
I got a lot to remember. There's the location on Butler downtown. There's a location on Summer, on Poplar.
And Getwell Road in South Haven. How hard is that?
I've heard you call yourself a spokesperson for Central Barbecue.
No, it was just to pick up chicks.
The Family Leisure floor model sales happening right now through the end of January. Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2025 items are starting to arrive. All floor models are up to 50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even baseball tables from 20 to 60% off. Want beer seating? Family Leisure has beer seating up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool seats. You can buy it and get on the installation schedule and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. Hey, if you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell the family staff at Family Leisure that you heard this commercial. It's the floor model show. Now, through the end of January, Family Leisure with Leonard I-40. Family and fun come together.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises. Just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it. Because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. It's gotten a little bit busier now on all the major outbound routes. From time to time, we've seen some slowdowns today in the construction zone. Northbound 55 from Mallory all the way up to South Parkway. Again, we'll keep an eye on it as traffic gets more in full effect out here in rush hour traffic on 240 East. That's building at times from Mill Branch all the way out to 385 getting onto Bill Morris Parkway. Weimer's Jewelry, serving the Memphis area for over 40 years, located 7525 Highway 64. They are your Valentine's Day headquarters. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
WHBQ Memphis and W253DF Memphis with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10. Sportstime on Sports 56 and 95 FM. Once again, Brent Rosary and Ryan Davis.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure studios. We're about to talk some college football with Brent Beard. He joins us every single week from First Coast News in Jacksonville. A lot to talk about with the offseason officially here, and for a lot of teams, a lot of questions that need to be answered for them.
Yeah, the offseason is here, and the portal, it feels like it never shuts, but it is for the time being. A lot of teams being totally remade again, and we're now into, just like in college basketball, pickup football with refashion your entire roster.
Yeah, so plenty to get to. Let's go ahead and get to Brent Beard.
College football talk every Tuesday with Brent Beard, Heisman voter, and on Twitter X at Brent Beard. SEC, ACC, AAC, we talk it all with Brent. Here's Brent Beard with Bryant and Brent.
Brent Beard joins us every week to talk college football from First Coast News down in Jacksonville. Brent, thanks so much for joining us. Last week, we talked to you the day after the national championship game. Talked a lot about what happened in that one. Later in the week, we got the ratings back from that game, and a lot of people have been talking about it. Ratings down for the national championship this year. What did you make of that, and what do you think went into ratings being a little down this year?
Well, it was just a whole bunch of things going on at the same time. I mean, I know they want to take it, but I don't want to give the NFL too much credit with that. But it was a day after the NFL playoffs, certainly the inauguration. I mean, it only happens once every 4 years, so hitting it at the same time was interesting. I still just do not like the Monday night game. I still think it needs to be there on Saturday, or heck, I'd take it on Friday if they could do it. Now, the national title dates are out, which means you've got games on January 25th of 2027, January 21st, 2030, January 22nd of 2029. So they're not going backwards. I know a lot of people want to have them on January the 1st. I'm guessing that ship has sailed, so we're kind of where we are. But I do wish they would do something about I still think the Monday night situation has something to do with it.
Yeah, and that's not changing either. They're gonna make us get used to it, and I guess we're gonna have to, because you mentioned next year. In fact, next year will be the earliest. It'll be January 19th, and you mentioned then the 25th, the 24th, the 22nd, the 21st, all the way through the year 2030. And on a Monday night, I guarantee you that will not change a bit. When the college football people sign a contract, they don't want to change a semicolon in it because they're scared to death that somewhere in that the lawyers can find language to crack open the whole new deal. And these rights fees might be less now than when they signed it a few years ago.
True. That's a good point. And which is certainly one thing they don't want. I tell you one thing that came out today that a lot of people may not have seen this yet, but the national championship basketball game is actually tipping off at 8:50 instead of 9:22. So a lot of folks will be pleasantly surprised to hear about that.
Yeah, it's moving up. Now, let's see if we can do anything on time, because nothing can really start when they say it's going to.
well, hey, Brett, will that make any difference if they have a half an hour pregame before tip-off?
Because we know here in Memphis everything is listed. If it says the top of the hour, it's really 10 after. If it says bottom of the hour, it's really at 40. I guarantee you that the ball will not be in the air at tip-off before 8 Central still. But every minute counts, and I don't know why, I do because of the population, but I also know the population shift to this part of the world, too.
Yeah, no question about that. But yeah, Brian, I think that there were several reasons. I mean, look, it was 20 million who were watching it. I mean, that's not
about 23.
Yeah. I mean, as the kids say, that's not nothing.
No, it's not. But compared to almost 60 million for Chiefs and Bills, but Brent, I love it when the other sports, when NBA or college basketball or baseball, and I like all those. I like every one of those I just named, but I don't like any of them. I like baseball more than college football, but not some of the others. Those others that want to kind of sniff at the college football rating at only 22 million, NBA Finals Game 7 would dream of that.
Oh, they would, wouldn't they? Oh, yeah. Well, they're just there's so many nuances that are problematic with the NBA right now. I mean, to a lot of people, unfortunately, the game is almost unwatchable from the people I talk to. So, that would be a pipe dream for them, no question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, kind of the big news this week in the college football world, Penn State goes out and makes a very splashy hire for their defensive coordinator role. Jim Knowles is going to take the same position, become Penn State's defensive coordinator after spending time at Ohio State. What do you make of that move for Penn State?
I'm still laughing over this, and this is the reason I'm laughing over it. It's not that Jim Knowles is not really good as a D coordinator, because he is, and I know Oklahoma was very interested in him too. But what I'm really intrigued with is the amount of money that he's getting here. He is getting $3 million as a coordinator.
Crazy.
Now, Bryant. It wasn't that long ago when Brett and I were talking about coordinators in the SEC, and they were making like $250,000, $300,000, and even, my goodness, shudder to think, $500,000. And listen, people thought that college football had lost its mind. Do you remember that, Brett?
Well, I do, and I remember the specific case when Brother Oliver left Gene Stallings' Alabama staff to go to Auburn.
Yes.
It was scandalous, and I'm going to say it was for $400,000.
It was. It was. You know, we just laugh. We laugh at that now, but I mean, when you and even
Brent, I'm going to interrupt you. Bryant pitches in and helps out with Dave Woloshin's show. When John Thompson, when Memphis got together, and I mean it was a deal, and a friend of John's from Far City was instrumental in raising the money to get him to come be on the Memphis staff in 1999. It was headline grabbing at $100,000.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder, with inflation, what that money would have been today. But
yeah, but the inflation ain't helping Johnny's front pocket.
No, it's not. It really isn't. And by the way, Blake Baker was the highest-paid coordinator at 2.5 before Knowles got that. But and guys, I mean, even today, $3 million is more than a lot of Division I coaches are making. So
I thought you were going to laugh at the Big Ten for throwing this money around, because they used to look down their nose at the SEC and tell us we don't do stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. We're a little more proper in our accounting. So but Brian, it's certainly interesting. Now that doesn't mean that they'll win a championship. We'll all have to see that to believe it. I mean, I give them credit for what they did this year, Penn State, that is. But yeah, that's a very good hire for an incredible amount of money.
And Brent, the kind of one of the first big ones. Well, the first big ones of this modern era was when Coach Tommy Tuberville left Ole Miss to go to Auburn, and I think my numbers are mostly right. It was he was making around $400,000 at Ole Miss and left for Auburn for $975. That was screaming headlines.
Oh, yeah.
Way back, almost 45 years ago, when Jackie Sherrill left Pitt to go to Texas A&M. I think making around 75 to making around 125.
Yeah, that was incredible money. None of us are turning it down, but yes.
But the market it moves that. I have no problem with Jim Knowles making it. The market has that. It can support that. There are people that will pay that, and the reason why Penn State had to make that kind of offer is because Clemson got their guy Tom Allen.
Yeah, they did, and that was a good hire for them too, frankly. So, but that was certainly one of the more interesting hires that was going around. Knowles' fiance lives in Oklahoma, so I think a lot of people thought he might be going there. But when you're when you're making $3 million, you can give your girlfriend a few plane tickets, can't you?
That's right.
And she's got a new address now, State College, PA.
I bet she does.
But I will almost defend, just like we had the players, not for nothing, because they did have scholarship and things like that, but mostly the players were not getting anything near out of the pot that they were putting in it.
Right.
I will contend from 70 to 90, we were getting a lot of really good coaches for a very cheap price.
We were, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about that, and didn't really know it, but yeah. But we thought they were getting a lot of money. Nothing compared to now.
And for small town Oxford and Fayetteville and Auburn and Columbia, yes, what they were making was it felt outrageous, but maybe not as much as it does now.
No, absolutely not.
No. I was reading something earlier today, Brent, about kind of winners and losers so far in the transfer portal, and the number 2 team listed as winners was Miami. It feels like every year we're in the same spot with Miami football. Look at all these guys they're bringing in, best transfer class, all this talent, but they can never get through at the end of the season. What do you think of this class they're bringing in, and could this be the year that they break through and make the playoffs?
My hesitation here tells
that gives
me no.
Me the answer, yes.
Frankly, yeah, look, we hear this. Brett and I have heard this for decades. Is the U back? Mm-hmm. Well, look, they had a fine year, but I mean, the reality is, to me, until you win a championship, you're not back.
Yeah.
So now Xavier Lucas has got a lot of attention. That as he's coming in, the cornerback, and they've got some of these freshmen they're excited about. Now, obviously, Carson Beck is going down there for a lot of money, but guys, my concern for them is, and look, I think Mario Cristobal can recruit. I think he's a pretty solid coach, but this is just being transparent here. Whether it was Oregon or Miami, they'll have a game or two a year where they end up losing, i.e. Georgia Tech or Middle Tennessee, mm-hmm. and it's just absolutely mystifying how that happens. And look, it's hard to be a coach. It's hard to win all the time, but they were really on a roll. And they made a defense coordinator change, but and they were really doing well. And then they get down to the end of the season, guys, and basically lose 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, and the season's over.
Yeah, and I look at their schedule next year: home against Notre Dame, home against Florida, at Florida State, home against Louisville, at SMU, home against Syracuse, at Virginia Tech. There's 2 or 3 in there.
Oh yeah,
losses.
Yeah, yes. Oh yeah, I would certainly agree with that. And by the way, since we're talking schedules here, real quick, Notre Dame's came out last night at Miami, home against A&M, at Arkansas, and they also play Boise State too. So. They've beefed it up a little bit, and I know that was one of the criticisms for Notre Dame most of the year.
Yeah, I didn't weigh in with a lot of criticism of Notre Dame because they couldn't help some of those teams had such shortcomings when they scheduled them. How they know the bottom was just going to fall out of Florida State and really of USC as well. Brent Beard, our friend from First Coast News down in Jacksonville, with us on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line. We talk college football with him each and every week throughout the year on Tuesday afternoon. Brent, Seth Emerson with a great piece at The Athletic about Georgia and Alabama have really opened the door, that they're human now, that people have caught up with them. Do you think that's the case? Do you think a lot of teams are even with Georgia in Alabama across college football, but particularly in the SEC?
Well, I think what helps both those teams is the fact of, instead of them being ranked either 1 or 2, they can now be ranked 1 through 12 and still make the playoffs. But what's happened with both of those schools is what's happened with a lot of the blue bloods. And Kirby Smart was answered this virtually every press conference when they'd ask him what's wrong with Georgia, and his answer was, and he was right, he said, we don't have the depth. We're really good in our first team, but then you get in, we have injuries, you get into the second team, and heaven forbid you get into the third team, and you can get in trouble real quick. So
they've been caught then.
Yeah, they really have. So,
is it good for college football? Is it good in the SEC that Bama and Georgia aren't the pace setter anymore?
Well, I think we still need a little bit more time with that. I still think they've got a lot, or certainly among the better teams in the league. I mean, does it make it? I mean, the question is, does parity make college football better? I mean, it certainly makes it more exciting. It certainly makes it probably the ratings will go up, but I still think those teams are going to be among the top of the league more years than not.
Did we really want parity, or did we really want those two off the scene?
Probably, yeah. That's probably answering the question even more.
Because if Ohio State's parity, then I mean, yeah. That's like that's like moving from Rodeo Drive to Malibu. I mean, you're not slumming it.
No, absolutely not. Oh no, and again, I mean, Georgia took it as far as they could do it, but Georgia's thing, and it really, I think you can narrow it down for both those teams to this: they don't have the dominating defensive line and front seven that they've had in the past. And that's something that I think they will pay a lot of attention to over the next few months to see if they can get that playing better. Because as much as we love offensive football, both the teams in the national championship game, Notre Dame and Ohio State, were the top two teams in the nation in scoring average. And Brett told me this about 20 years ago, that if you can play defense, you're always going to be in the game. If you have a shot at something.
Yeah.
I go back to Curry and Copeland in '92 with what they could do on defense for that '92 Bama team. From then on, Brent, I swear by running the ball and stopping the run.
That's right. Yeah. Oh yeah. And look, and there's absolutely no question about that. You saw that in the national championship game, and you saw that throughout the playoffs. And that was a Gene Stallings and Alabama mantra, and he believed that and lived by it, and it won him many games.
Man, did you think we'd talk this much about Brother Oliver today?
No,
I liked him.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, when he left, I'll never forget that. Now, Brian, this happens all the time now. Back then, it was, Alabama and Auburn have always been the Hatfields and McCoy. And when Brother left Bama to go to Auburn, you would have. How can I phrase this, Brett? I don't know if it would be like
Arnold.
Yeah, probably. It'd be like Hatfield stealing one of the McCoy daughters and marrying them off,
and buying the winning Powerball ticket that night to boot.
It was that kind of scandal. Yes,
it really was. And back then, if you'll remember, Brent, as a young assistant, right out of playing for Coach Bryant, he was on the staff for Shug at Auburn. So really, he had been at Auburn before, but nobody wanted to hear that part of it.
No, No, that's like the Pat Dye and Vince Dooley, and there are a lot of coaches, and people still get a little bit surprised when coaches still do that today and so forth. Look, all these coaches know each other. They play together. Some of them even grew up together. It doesn't matter if it's Texas, Oklahoma, or who it is. In the coaching ranks, it's still one big family regardless.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Brent, I'm curious, over on the basketball side, SEC has been so much fun to watch since the start of conference play, but news coming out yesterday down in your neck of the woods that Florida has ended its Title IX investigation into Todd Golden, saying no evidence was found regarding allegations of sexual exploitation and stalking. So now Florida, who's been playing really well, can put this behind them, it seems.
I can't tell you what a big deal that was for Florida. Now, there were a lot of us who wondered and thought that, okay, he's still coaching. Mm-hmm. Well, if he's still coaching, what that tells us is the university knows something about this that they're not talking about right now. And listen, those Title IX investigations are very serious. They're very, or at least most of the time, they're very confidential. But on the court, this Gator team, they're off midweek. They don't play to this weekend. But best start in program history, 18-2, which is amazing. They beat Georgia 12 times in a row. But here's the reality: starting Saturday, they have got they're at Tennessee, home with Vandy, at Auburn, and at Mississippi State. So that's not going to be easy by any stretch.
It feels like everybody's schedule in the SEC, the next four are brutal.
Yep,
they are. There's no question about that. But they love this net rankings, and there are in the top 20, even top 24 in the net rankings. There are about 9 or 10 SEC teams.
Yeah. It's fun basketball. It's a lot of good teams, and hopefully a lot of teams that can go deep into the tournament. But Brent, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll do it again next week.
Good. Always love it, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Brent.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you so much. Brent Beard with us talking college football and college basketball. And, of course, we will shift more to college basketball talk. The best thing about a new year is getting something new to drive, and the place to do that is at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch, where all the Silverados are. Get $1,500 in extra savings when you trade in a 2011 or newer passenger car or light-duty truck. 1.9 financing on new Blazers, or 2.9 with no payments for 90 days on a new Equinox. You can be payment-free until April, and your good credit deserves it. And you'll get it at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch on Highway 78. After you cross into Mississippi, take that first exit, Kraft Goodman Road, and you're there. Law enforcement, first responder, healthcare, military, educators, recent grads, extra $500 back. Nobody with the certified and pre-owns like All-Star Chevy, Silverados, Nissans, Sierra trucks, Toyotas, Fords, Jeeps, and you got to test drive that red Corvette Stingray. And if you got any vehicle you want to sell, bring it to All-Star in Olive Branch, whether you bought it there or not, and you'll get the most money back for it at purchase time. Together, let's drive to All-Star for the fresh start sale to kick off 2025 going on now in Olive Branch. For more information, go to allstarautogroup.com.
Well, we're talking some college basketball with Brent. It was some good games last night. Monday's usually a little slim, but tonight some really fun games, especially in the SEC. So let's get to a break, and when we come back, we'll talk some college hoops.
maintenance, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 912-715-5199.
Napa Cafe celebrates 26 years in 2024. Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I want to thank you for making us part of your dining experiences. Treat yourself tonight with a delightful dinner. Maybe start with an appetizer like our baked sweet peculiar peppers stuffed with goat cheese and mozzarella, finish with basil pistou, and move on to one of our cozy dishes like the double chocolate stout braised boneless beef short ribs with tonkatsu sauce and creamy mashed potatoes, or a fresh seafood dish like our pan-roasted ginger buttered sea bass with cilantro soy vinaigrette. I get hungry just talking about it. Don't forget about dessert, our famous sweet buttermilk pie with brown sugar sauce, or drink your dessert with one of our signature dessert cocktails, like the lemon cheesecake martini, lemony, icy, frothy, and dusted with graham cracker crumbs. Napa Cafe, open Wednesday through Saturday for dinner starting at 5 o'clock. For reservations, visit our website at napacafe.com. Come join us as we celebrate 26 years of Napa Cafe. We can't wait to serve you.
We're definitely going to be late to the concert. I feel like we should be there by now.
I'm just taking a little detour. I gotta fill up my gas tank, and I know this place a couple towns over where the gas is cheaper.
Are you serious? We're going to be late for the concert because you're driving out of the way for cheaper gas? Just use Upside.
What's Upside?
Upside is the free cashback app that gets you real cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait, I can get cash back just for buying the gas I need anyway?
Yes, I use it all the time, and I've made around $200. Now pull over so you can download the Upside app before we miss the concert.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code WOW25 to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right your bank, PayPal, or as a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code WOW25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code WOW25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's code WOW25.
All 650 acquisition fee, 20,000 miles per year, 20 cents excess mileage, EV6, 36-month lease, RU6, 21,425, 36-month lease, MSRP 55,820, K4 SEO 64,461, MSRP 24,715, Telluride SG 596,204, MSRP 41,060, includes all rebates and incentives, must finance through KFA, excludes tax out of license with approved credit, dealer stock only, see dealer for complete details, offer valid through 1/31/24. I got Jeff Allen on the line, he's doing numbers I've never heard of before at Gossett Kia South on Mount Moriah.
Randy, when's the last time you heard of a new ride at $163 a month with electric EPA range of estimate 310? I got it in a 2024 Kia EB6, $63.96 due at signing, 36-month lease. Or a 2025 K4 GT Line, $206 a month, $34.99 due at signing, 24-month lease. 2025 Telluride S front-wheel drive, $398 per month, $39.99 due at signing, 24-month lease.
And every Gossett Kia comes with Kia's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty.
So whether you live in Horn Lake, South Haven, Olive Branch, or Memphis, you'll be happy at Gossett Kia on Mount Moriah.
Good afternoon. It's getting busier by the minute trying to get out of the Midtown area. Right on schedule, actually, over here on 240 southbound at South Parkway. It was a little bit slow earlier. It looks like it's trying to improve a bit. 55 northbound from Mallory all the way up to South Parkway in that construction zone. Traffic's on the increase. I-40 going westbound here at Danny Thomas, headed across the I-40 bridge back over into West Memphis. Weimer's Jewelry, 7525 Highway 64 is your Valentine's Day headquarters. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic. Good afternoon. It's getting busier.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but some good games last night. Duke tested a little bit against NC State. They ended up winning that game by 10, trailed at half, trailed early in the second half, but able to outscore NC State 41-27 in the second half to get a 10-point lead or a 10-point win. And then the late game that went to overtime, Arizona needs a heroic shot by Caleb Love to force overtime against the number 3 team in the country, Iowa State. They get that shot. They get all the momentum. They go into overtime and really dominate that overtime period. And,
did they court storm?
They did not court storm. They did not.
That was partly cloudy at that point.
Yeah, because I thought they were, and then it looked like maybe a couple students were out there, but no court storming.
Tonight in college basketball, number 15 St. John's at Cap One Center in D.C. against Georgetown. Okay, so it's not Carnesecca against Big John, but it's pretty good. And
really
Patino, to any, I don't know if there were any, but to the one or two doubters, he can coach in the NIL era.
Yeah,
made for it.
Oh, he is absolutely made for it.
He can raise the money.
Yeah, he can. And, Ed Cooley over at Georgetown, the wins aren't really coming yet, but, it feels like he's starting to turn things around there.
A pulse.
Certainly. And, you look at some of the games they've played in, really close on the road against Marquette, really close at home against UConn. The last meeting between these two teams, a couple weeks ago was a really close game against St. John. So it feels like he's starting to turn things around there at Georgetown. But, no, you're right. I mean, what St. John's has done really since November. We talked yesterday about Michigan State and just all the winning they've done. Haven't lost a game at all since they lost to the Tigers in Maui. St. John's is right there in that same boat where they've only lost one game. They lost on the road to Creighton, a 1-point loss against Creighton. That is their only loss since late November. So they have been absolutely locked in, dialed in. And you look at the schedule coming up, if they can get a win tonight on the road against Georgetown, they win over the weekend against Providence. Next Tuesday night, a week from today, we're talking about a massive game between them and Marquette.
And if the Memphis Tiger fans need kind of any misery needing a little company, here's St. John's. Their national ranking and their net not corresponding to Joe Lenardi's release today. Tonight they play as the number 15 team in the country, and their net's real gaudy. He only has them as a 7 seed.
Wow. Yeah. Joe Lenardi not showing a ton of love to St. John's. How about that?
Lenardi showed the SEC love today, 13 out of 16.
Oh, I forgot.
26 net for St. John's. So Memphis fans, St. John's in the same boat.
That's right. Yeah, wow. That's interesting. But now I forgot we got a new bracket from Joey B today. So where's he have Tigers?
Tigers in good shape as a 5 seed in the Indianapolis bracket. Ole Miss 6. They're not on the. They wouldn't meet though until a potential ticket punch to Final Four would be the earliest.
Wow.
Memphis and Ole Miss could meet. Ole Miss the 6, bottom of the bracket. Memphis 5.
Yeah, Memphis-Bradley first-round matchup Joey B has with the winner getting
He's
Illinois.
been hanging with that.
He has, in kind of that same type of pod. We talked about it, his last update with Alabama as the
huge
number 1
history
seed.
with Bradley in the Valley and in the NCAA tournament. Cal had a team beat Bradley.
Yeah, so that'd be a fun matchup, and part of that 5-12 would be interesting. But still kind of a little early for me in bracketology. I'll be honest, Brett.
It's still a little early for bracketology. It is
early, but it's fun. It's fun to keep up, and I think the Tigers have.
It's
done...
a little like Matt Infield described the early rounds, and then it coalesces. I mean, right now the bracketology is kind of a big old jigsaw puzzle, but we're getting a little more every day.
Yes, and holler at me in about a month, and I'll be all in on the bracketology.
That's smart. About 25th, late February.
Give me late February, and then I think we'll have a better idea. But when you look at the Tigers and what they're doing, I think this is pretty much, unless something crazy happens, this is going to be about where they're at.
I think maybe a 4 is the best.
Yeah, I don't think I think that range, probably 4 to 6, unless something crazy happens, is probably
what's
where
the
you're
bottom? What could it fall to?
I mean, are we talking chaos, or are we talking just
two more conference losses?
Yeah, I think
both on the road. Nothing at home.
Probably a 7. I don't think they would drop all the way down to an 8.
I don't think it's crater.
No, I don't either. So, I mean, they're in a really good spot right now.
Tonight, speaking of teams with pulses, Rick Pitino's old school, Louisville.
Yeah.
That's a good job being turned in.
It's a really good job. Pat Kelsey, I was really
and I don't
high
know
on
that
this
Kenny
hire.
Payne ever moved Saturday night. I don't really know what he does.
No. It's a lot of times they'll throw that camera over and
I know what he used
direction.
to do, but now everybody's doing that.
Yeah, you're right about that. But no, he's very stationary. He sits in that chair and doesn't move much. But no, the job Pat Kelsey has done, at Louisville, he brought a lot of energy the second he got hired, and now you're seeing what they're able to do. They had some big-time injuries earlier in non-conference. I remember I think the game before they played Ole Miss in non-conference and, had just lost 2 key players to season-long injuries, went out, got blasted by Ole Miss, and now you're seeing that they are really good timing. But now you're seeing that he's able to look at this team, look at this roster that he put together and say, okay, we lost 2 important pieces, but we need other guys to step up. Those guys have stepped up. Now in the top 25, and certainly a good opportunity for them tonight at home. A big favorite, nearly a double-digit favorite at home against a Wake Forest team that's played pretty well this season.
Joe Lunardi, 13 SEC teams in, the only 3 not in, South Carolina, Arkansas, and LSU. For Georgia to stay in that group, it's must-win tonight for them at home against South Carolina.
Yeah.
And kind of a season saver restarter for South Carolina. A couple of narrow losses, but still losses.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun game tonight on SEC Network here in just a little more than an hour because you're right. Georgia has been kind of a surprise team this year. They're playing well, but, they got to start doing it in conference play. 2-5 in conference. It's a gauntlet. I understand, but you got to start stacking wins in conference play. And then on the other side, a South Carolina team that we were just talking about it yesterday with David Cobb. They have been right there in a ton of games in conference play, but just haven't been able to get a win. So that will be a really fun game to keep an eye on tonight.
OU at A&M tonight. OU coming off really, I think, stealing that game Saturday night in Fayetteville. And A&M with the wild week that they had last week, the win against Ole Miss, and then the giving away the big lead against Texas. Kind of came out 1-1 for the week. Probably should have lost. Won the one they lost, and the other one should have been the other way, but they play tonight. And last Friday afternoon, Lunardi had in his kind of synopsis heading into the weekend, making a case for A&M a Final Four team. If A&M's a Final Four team, then there are potential 30 teams that are, because Buzz Williams has just never gone that far.
No. You don't have a ton of trust in Buzz to make deep runs in the tournament. But I think, a good opportunity here for Oklahoma tonight, on the road to really make that statement. They've been, I think, a fun team to watch, but it just feels like since the start of conference play, really haven't been able to get it going. Now back-to-back wins, maybe some momentum rolling in there. Certainly Texas A&M wants to bounce back after that loss to Texas. So, I think, maybe could be a game that comes down to the wire tonight.
In the American. Rice.
Oh, the
American.
Knockdown drag-out tonight. I guess. I don't know. But ESPN
tickets
game,
available.
Yeah, tickets available. Tickets is ESPN's telling me tickets as low as $6 for tonight's game.
A building available.
Yeah. I don't think many people are going to be in there for that one. But, could be a fun game. I'll keep an eye on it.
I know we're talking about the big game, and everybody's starting to put together big game plans. Step aside, let Jason's Deli step in. This is when they really excel, when you kind of have that last-minute deal you're trying to put together, something like a big game party. Let them have it for you, whether it's 5 or 5,000. What a perfect way to enjoy that day with a variety of delicious choices for every meal. All-day meals for groups of 5 or 5,000. Low delivery fees, a professional setup included, same-day, last-minute orders. That's when they excel. And healthy. All foods are free from dyes, artificial trans fats, and flavors. We're hearing so much about that. Jason's Deli been on the health kick long before it got cool. Whether it's dining in, to go, or delivery, they've got you covered. Wholesome Food Forever, it's a family thing. Over 200 area associates to help you put together that great meal. People thinking about dinner tonight. Don't think about Jason Deli just at lunchtime. Think about it at dinner, whether in the restaurants or getting it to go. Locations on Ridgeway Road, across from MUS, over by the University of Memphis at Poplar and Highland, down in Olive Branch, out in Cordova, and it is healthy. First franchise in the nation to be trans fat free, and it's all about choice. Whether you seek a gluten-free menu, vegetarian sandwiches, healthy kids meals, or if you'd like to invent your sandwich via the Build Your Own, you will be delighted at Jason's Deli. Plenty of organic food to choose from, and that salad bar in every location with over 30 items to choose from for you to prepare it however you would like. Off the menu, all the soups, so good and so filling this time of year. Mesa chicken salad, chicken club salad, my favorite, the taco salad. Get all those off the menu. Or the beef eater. That's your go-to, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is.
You're the beef eater guy. Yeah, that's what Brian always gets. And in all the locations, whether it's on Ridgeway Road, Poplar and Highland, Olive Branch, or down in Cordova, complimentary free ice cream. Check them out online as well at jasonsdeli.com.
Another game to keep an eye on, the late night game tonight, Oregon State on the road against Gonzaga. This is an Oregon State team that just beat Gonzaga a couple weeks ago at their place, and so now returning the trip to Spokane to face this Gonzaga team on the road. Gonzaga, 15.5-point favorite, now outside of the top 25, so a game that they really need to kind of make a statement tonight.
What are we doing at conference tournament time for the two-pack?
I think they're playing with the WCC this year, so
okay, so
expanded
that's
bracket.
The tournament.
I think so. Yeah, I believe so. But the WCC does the funky tournament where you get like the 5 byes and the top 2 teams. They're all automatically in the semifinal.
Start some at campus.
They might. I don't know how they're doing it this year.
I don't mind kind of greasing the skids a little bit for teams to get all the way to those semis.
I believe Sunbelt doing the same thing this year.
And they should. Arkansas State should want that. I think in a lot of those one-bid leagues, the team that wins the overall automatically in the finals.
Yeah. You should give them something for being so good in conference play.
OBC.
I'm with you. Yeah, no, I'm absolutely with you on that, because you see so many times these teams that were so good in the regular season, they come out maybe first round, have that kind of clunker, and then they're completely out. So I'm not against that. But let's go ahead and get to another break, and when we return, it'll be time for Big Number of the Day.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday, it's happy hour from 3 to 6. $1 off all draft meals, $5 off oil drinks, $4.50 for house wine, and mozzarella sticks, queso, $4 a day. Friday night ice from 7 to 11. Dining in Montreal, Wednesday, Friday, free. Watch college football at every pro game. All in the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Highway 70. Fall is football. If wedding bells are in your future, you need an unforgettable engagement ring from a jeweler you can trust. And that's been James Gaddis Jewelers for over 60 years. With a huge selection and the best prices, James Gaddis is a master jeweler and diamondologist. Beautiful jewelry from James Gaddis is always the right choice. Choose from rings to earrings, necklaces to bracelets, and gemstones to watches. Layaway and financing available. James Gaddis Jewelers, 4900 Poplar, online at GaddisJewelers.com and Instagram at Gaddis Jewelers. Say I do at James Gaddis Jewelers.
Mid-South, it's time for a new year and a new ride from Gossett Mitsubishi on the Pike. In 2024 Mitsubishi Mirage, a perfect compact hatchback for commutes, getaways, and just about everything else for $299 a month. Or buy Mirage for $18,410, gets 43 MPG highway. Or take your pick from 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid PHEV, named 2025 Family Green Car of the Year for 3 straight years. Or 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander, now just $399 a month. Plus, get peace of mind with Mitsubishi's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. Get to Gossett Mitsubishi today to start your year off right. 1870 Covington Pike and 24/7 at MemphisMitsubishi.com.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
RHO 15630, MSRP 18410, PHEV RZO 66681, MSRP 42750, Outlander RZO 88655, MSRP 32770. Includes all rebates and incentives. PF 695 excludes tax title and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through end of the month. Dealer stock only.
Big Daddy.
Hello, Big Brand. It's a guy, he wants to be big, then he gets big, he doesn't want to be big anymore, then he gets small, but the suit's too big.
Big Daddy.
The big boy.
You're a big guy. I think she's trying to pull a fast one on Big Daddy.
The big number of the day.
Well, my big number today is the number 3, and it might not be a big number that we like to hear, especially since we'll see this team Thursday night. But in the last 3 games for the Houston Rockets, they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are 33-6 entering the game. They beat the Cavs again, who are 36-8, and then they beat the Celtics, who are 32-14. No other team in NBA history has won 3 straight games against teams with that high of a combined win percentage coming into the game. The Rockets are playing at an extremely high level right now and
have
some
the
really
inside
good
track on the 2.
They absolutely
Clearly.
do. They absolutely do. And it's starting to feel like they are the team of the kind of this year's look out for team of they could really, make the playoffs and maybe make some noise.
With the proviso, a lot of basketball left, but unfortunately, not a lot of basketball between the Grizzlies and the Rockets left.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, only one game, and it's Thursday night. I mean, we talked about it really all month and even back in December of how compact these 4 games were going to be. The first one all the way back, second game of the season, but then the 3 since then have all been pretty crammed together. So yeah, it's weird, but now you look up and the Rockets, like you said, have that inside track.
I go back to Sunday and what the Eagles did to Washington with my big number, and it's 55. That was how many they scored in the NFC Championship game against Washington, and that's the most ever scored in an NFC Championship game. And that's the most ever scored. Nobody in the AFC Championship game has topped it. Nobody in the old AFL Championship game ever topped it. When you go back to NFL Championship games, it was topped 3 times. 73 by Chicago in 1940, 56 by Cleveland in 1954, and 59 by Detroit in 1957. Only once on Super Bowl Sunday has 55 been scored, and that was San Francisco routing Denver in Super Bowl 24. Never more than 55. So what Philadelphia did to Washington, it was historic.
Yeah.
It was a rout of historic proportion. And the good fun year for Washington. They don't feel like Buffalo today, but they got pounded.
They did, and that's a good point. Certainly Buffalo and Washington are certainly at different levels and different points in the process. But yeah, I mean, no way about that. Nobody got done with that game. Players or coaches. Nobody ended that game and said, well, fellas, I mean, we weren't supposed to be here. What a great season. They were all saying, man, that was awful. We just played, that was a terrible game. And so, it's one of those routes.
And you're going to get a more healthy, rested Jalen Hurts than you've had in a while. The downtime for Barkley, and also the weather. You get to this. Now, I know Kansas City gets it too, but the Eagles, they put up 55 in the bad weather. Got 28 against the Rams in Ice Station 0.
That's right. And so, yeah, I mean, for Saquon Barkley to have, this week off and to be able to kind of get some rest after how much they've been running him, how effective he's been, to have a fresh Jalen Hurts and a fresh Saquon Barkley out there for the Super Bowl, I mean, that definitely gives you some worry, some pause for cause if you're John Harden about, what this offense can do against Kansas City.
First warm weather dome situation for the Eagles to play in since playing the Rams in the Dome November 24th in Los Angeles.
Wow. Is that right?
And put up 37 that night on the Rams.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
that was Monday Night Football.
It was, yeah, that's right. We talked about it yesterday, but I will be curious to see how this line moves as we get closer to
that was Sunday night
Super
game.
Bowl.
That was a Sunday night game that weekend.
Yeah.
The 24th.
Yeah. But I'm curious of right now, what was it yesterday? I don't know if it's moved today, but yeah, it's still the same. Kansas City, a 1.5 point favorite. Plenty of time where, people aren't going to start betting that till, next week, I'm sure, is really when a lot of the public will get in on that. But I'll be curious to see how that moves, if it moves, where it moves when we get to kickoff in a couple
Have you
weeks.
looked at the props? Are there anything really exotic out there?
I haven't looked
deep
very
dive
much.
Yet?
I have not.
That's what they
deep,
used to
deep
call
dive.
them. They called them the exotics.
Exotics, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think we
New
get a lot
Orleans,
of.
that's a lot of.
I was about to
has
say
a lot of meaning.
That well can go pretty deep in New Orleans. I don't
Yeah.
think Tennessee gets too exotic with their Super Bowl bets, at least.
Oh,
on the
that's right.
sportsbooks.
That's right.
Yeah, so we can't do many of the fun ones. I know a lot of like the Taylor Swift ones with Travis Kelce. We don't get many of those in
49.5. Used to have a lot of crossover and would bring in NBA stuff.
Yeah, they still that's still
Super
still
Bowl
a big
Sunday.
thing. I know I see it all the time every year. I never give it a try because I just want to be focused on one game with my bet. I'm not a huge parlay guy. I don't know. Just let me focus on one game. If I'm going to bet it, let me bet it.
Any teasers for you? Does that do anything for you?
Teasers?
Or are you just side in total?
I'll dabble every once in a while with teasers, but no, I'm usually just give me one, give me a bet.
That's hard
and then-
enough.
Yeah, and then we'll go from there. But that's gonna be fun. I always love. I'll be honest. One of my favorite segments of the year is when Alan Bell joins us the Friday before the Super Bowl and gives us all sorts of props for the Super
He
Bowl.
does.
Because I know last year the punt prop was my favorite.
And Bruce can't stand them, but that's the one time that he'll throw out one
That's
or
right.
two.
That's right. And so it's fun to get everybody's props and what everybody's feeling for that big game on Sunday. Well, before we get to this break and wrap up our second hour, let me remind you, it's getting close to dinner time. A lot of people thinking about where to go out. You think Memphis, you think barbecue, and you can get some of that world-famous Memphis-style barbecue any night at the Commissary. With locations in Germantown and Collierville, stop in for lunch or dinner or get it to go. Start your meal with an appetizer like the cheese plate, chicken wings, or my favorite, the barbecue nachos. For more than 40 years, the Commissary has been a staple in this area, and a big reason is the quality of food they serve. My go-to, it's got to be the ribs, but it's hard to resist the barbecue shoulder. Get it chopped or pulled, get it by the plate or by the pound. It also comes in handy with the sandwich packs. Feed the whole group with a 6-pack, 8-pack, even a 12-pack. And don't forget about the desserts like the delicious banana pudding, brownie, or the lemon icebox pie. Check out the entire menu and catering options at commissarybbq.com. Whether it's a watch party for your favorite team or maybe for the big game next week, the Commissary can cater your next event. Give them a call, 901-754-5540 to make any event perfect. Stop in today, though, at either location. In Germantown, open daily until 8 p.m., and in Collierville, open till 9 p.m. for that world-famous Memphis-style barbecue at the Commissary. Let's get to a break, and when we return, we're talking the NFL with Bo Marchant.
Shop, compare, and save from hundreds of experts to turn your dream home into a reality. We have everything to help you remodel, refresh, and beautify your home inside and out. So come on out to the home show of the Mid-South, January 31st through February 2nd at the Agri Center. You'll find special show pricing on kitchens, baths, patios, and landscaping, flooring, cabinets, windows, roofing. It's all at the home show of the Mid-South, January 31st
Surprise! Your table saw broke. Also, the warranty expired weeks ago, so you need to pay for a new one out of pocket.
We know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Oh, and the replacement part you ordered doesn't fit, so it's completely useless.
What a waste!
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Spring forward with real unlimited data from Straight Talk this tax season and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2024 with select plans. So you can stream games during Mad March hours, check the weather for April showers, and watch garden videos about May flowers. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. Offer valid for 4/15/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires purchase a single line Global Limited plan or higher. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com.
Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis, with Dave Willotion, weekday mornings from 10 to 11. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by Jack Weiler, once again.
You say you stand by your man. Tell me something I don't understand. You said you love me, and that's about.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. And every single Tuesday afternoon, we talk the NFL, and now we have the Super Bowl set. So let's go ahead and get to Beau Marchant.
National Football League talk every Tuesday with Beau Marchant, covering the NFL Draft at collegetopro.com and the NFL Draft Bible, covering the Steelers for Sports Illustrated, living and running in Eastern Ohio, and on Twitter X at Beau Marchant. Here's Beau with Bryant and Brett.
Beau Marchant joins us every Tuesday to talk the NFL, and a ton to get to this afternoon. Beau's going to be at the Senior Bowl later this week like he always is, so we got to touch on that. But, Beau, before we get to that, the Super Bowl finally set. Chiefs and Eagles will meet down in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. Let's talk about how these two teams got there, and let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs. An opportunity now for a three-peat, but they had to get through the Buffalo Bills. It felt like a lot of us were sitting here saying, all right, here's the opportunity for Buffalo to get past the Chiefs and get to the Super Bowl. Ultimately not able to do that, and that's just the dynasty that the Chiefs are. What have you made of what the Chiefs have done this season and what they did Sunday in that win over the Bills?
But, I think their portfolio of the season wasn't something that we were in awe of, despite them having the number one seed, despite them being 15-2. Just the way that they won some of the games, they just weren't the dominant figure that we saw them be. And then we became, prone to the Mahomes calls, the Chief favorism that exists, or at least we think it exists. I'm not a subscriber to that as much as many are. But nonetheless, they're the team to beat. Mahomes is the guy, one of the greatest players we've seen, and they're back. And I'm glad, at least in my opinion of the game, there wasn't a horrific call. There wasn't a play that changed or swung the game either side that persuaded one team to have the victory or the loss. But you're looking at a trifecta of Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Spags. You got to give Steve Spagnuolo all the appreciation as the world as the defensive coordinator for being able to kind of really get this team together at a point where the offense wasn't up to the offense that we've seen from years past. But we've come to learn that Andy Reid has adjusted. He's learned to use the run game. He's not going to over-pursue a play and just to dictate what he wants to see. He's going to allow the game come to what the Chiefs need, and bravo to the Chiefs. We're on the verge of something special.
And, Beau, on that defensive side for the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm not going to put him in Mahomes' league, but I think what Chris Jones does on defense is just as critical as what Travis Kelce does on offense.
Oh, that's a great assessment, Brett. And, and the thing with Chris Jones is, if you watch them intently and to detail, I should say, you might not see, he doesn't have 12.5 sacks this year, or he didn't have 3 sacks this game, but the pressures, the hits on quarterbacks, the double teams, all the things that he takes, and I guess the biggest compliment is, when teams are game planning against that Chiefs defense, they're going to pay extra attention to number 95. And that's when you got the allegiance or the moxie to do it the right way when other teams are, detailing how to prevent you from doing what you do best. And he was one of those critical signings. He was holding out, and he got his money. And it's the Chiefs. Listen, when you're a winning team, you kind of make the right moves, and they did it with Chris Jones. They've done it with keeping all this intact, and they bring the right guys in. And it's part of that dynasty feel. I mean, all good teams are able to. You bring in the Juju Smith-Schuster's, you bring in all the other guys that aren't successful somewhere else, but yet they can make big plays and be big players in big moments. And we saw that this past Sunday. Guy like Juju really not having the best year, released by the Patriots, and lo and behold, he's going back to the Super Bowl. So I'm sure he's very happy with the way things turned out.
Yeah, always have to game plan for Chris Jones on the defense side. For Buffalo, it gives new meaning to long, cold, lonely winter that they have to go through. Because if they stay in that area, it's going to be plenty cold. And for those fans, those great fans that felt like of all years, this was the year more disappointment. How did they ever, get ready for OTAs and back to camp next year and the grind again? And do you think there's any chance Sean McDermott over the next 2 weeks may say maybe a new voice for them?
No, I'll keep going back to the mindset of, you're just stuck in the moment where you got to get past this juggernaut with Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. And it's just they're in the wrong place at the wrong time in terms of, you're at your best when a team's at their best and they're a little bit better than you. And I always reference back to the basketball days to say, Michael Jordan had to go through it to get with the Celtics. The Celtics were the king of the castle. Michael took his beatings, and then, Detroit, they took their beatings, and then they got past the Celtics, and then, Jordan couldn't get past Detroit, and then finally he got over. It just happens to be that, that they are that team. The Chiefs are that team. And Buffalo, watching that game, and it was one of the odd games where I did hurt for either side, because you want to see the history of the three-peat. And then you see the way the Bills are, the season Josh Allen had, and to think that you're still not going to get to the ultimate finish line. It's sad. Listen, but that's what sports is, and maybe they can, maybe they get it next year. I thought their window was closing this year, but who knows? You're going to go back to the drawing table. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. I do think at least when I watched that game, the way Patrick Mahomes celebrated, or when he wanted to fire that ball into the end zone after he scored and, it slipped out, but you could just feel the energy and how bad he wanted it. And you got to know that, the Buffalo Bills guys, they wanted it the same exact way. But hard. It's hard, Brett. I joked around with some guys, if Josh Allen was in a fantasy football league, he would say, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah, he sure would. I mentioned it yesterday. In the mid to late 70s, early 80s, the Kansas City Royals could not get past the Yankees, and it was Whitey Herzog. They fired Whitey Herzog, hired Jimmy Fry. He wasn't the answer. Then Dick Hauser came in. They beat them, and they got to their World Series. I don't think there's any way next year, if the Bills go 9-8 or 10-7. And just get in the playoffs, lose as a wild card, that he's back for 26. They'll need that new voice.
I believe that. I thought this past year, I thought if things don't go the way that they might already be on that maneuver now. But after the season they had, playoffs, because, after the Steelers lost and the Steelers fan base is so frustrated with Mike Tomlin. And I thought to myself, Steeler fans they want Tomlin out, but they're not a very good football team. You imagine if still fresh to him, but McDermott, the Bills, Harbaugh, and Baltimore. Some of these guys that have success, but these fan bases are like, hey, we want it now, and so. I look at, if you're a Steelers fan, not to get on the topic of the Steelers, Tomlin, he might not be the guy you want, but nonetheless, they're not a good football team. I do believe the Bills are a good football team. I think the Ravens, et cetera, the Lions. But at the end, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. And, there's a reason why they've had the success that they've had. There's a reason why this is the third straight year that they're going to play in the Super Bowl. So, if you lose to them, you got to tell yourself, hey man, this is, who's the swimmer? Who's the big swimmer that won all the Olympic gold medals?
Phelps.
Yep, Mike
Phelps. I mean, it'd be like you being the best swimmer in the world, and then you got to swim against this nice guy, Michael Phelps. It's just, hey, you know what? In any other time frame, you might have won 3 gold medals, but you just have to swim in next to this guy, and I just think that's the. If anything, the Bills should do is maybe just try to get a league transfer where they can go play in the NFC or something.
Right. It's Chris DeMarco in golf. He comes along in any other era. He has at least a Masters and probably one other major, but he had to stare down Tiger Woods.
Yeah, great point. And again, that's just the part of sports. And we could go back through all sports and all top tier type of guys and think about it. I mean, think of Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicholson. Imagine if one of those other ones didn't exist, the records that they would have. Right. So it's one of them. Magic and Bird. If the Lakers and Celtics didn't coexist at the same time, Ollie Frazier. So I don't take anything away from the Bills or Josh Allen or McDermott. I just think, listen, you guys know I picked Buffalo. I thought they would win that game, but I was wrong. And but great game. It was just a good game, and they've always delivered. That's the one thing about both those teams. Their playoff performances, Allen, Mahomes in the playoffs. That's what you want to see. The Philly game, I didn't really think that was a good game, even from the get-go. It just looked like they were always out of it, and you had to hope for, well, if this can happen and this can happen and that happens, Washington's back in it, and that's you're not in it when you need all those things to happen.
Yeah, it looked like the Eagles were going to win that from the first possession. But you look at the storylines in that game. You've got the Eagles that after the disaster of end of a season that last year was, they're now back here in the Super Bowl. And then on the other side, I know the Commanders came up on the losing end, but kind of what the future looks like now for their franchise with Jaden Daniels and some of the guys they have now, it looks like the future very bright in Washington.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a Washington fan, I mean, the absence of Daniel Snyder, Josh Harris comes in, a new regime, top to bottom, and you see an instant resolve. It's a great story. Jaden Daniels looks phenomenal as a rookie, but like anything, I mean, last year at this time, we were probably thinking C.J. Stroud was going to take the next step and become the elite guy. Stroud, I didn't say he take a step back, but he never... I don't think he capitalized on the success of that rookie season. So I think if a Washington fan, one, you're extremely satisfied. Will Graves, a AP writer for the Steelers, I put it on my Facebook. He wrote a great story because he grew up in the D.C. area as a youngster, and he said he got into journalism because of the Washington then Redskins, and that was his team. And he just, I've heard those stories sitting with him, but him to put it to paper for everybody to read was a great story that, what he grew up seeing when he was 8 years old has come full circle, and his dad passed away in 2010 at the age of 59, but his mom's still alive, and he said he was calling her during the week, to get a game prep and talk about, okay, how's this Washington team? And he said it brought that fan base back to life for him. He said it's been gone dormant, but, he said it's been rekindled. And then that's the fun of sports where you go so long, you're still in love with it, but you're hurt and you want to dismiss and shy away from it. But Washington, you would think that there's a bright future there. You think Dan Quinn, already a Super Bowl coach, very, very close to a Super Bowl. It wasn't for the heroics of the Patriots, and you got to like it. But Jaden Daniels year 2, you just got to expect and hope for bigger and better things. Hard to imagine, but that's the life we live in. That last year, this year is already gone, and we're already looking forward to 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know we're going to talk about it a lot more next week when you join, as we're a lot closer to the Super Bowl. But just looking at this matchup, kind of first glance, how do you think the Super Bowl is going to go between the Chiefs and the Eagles?
I think we're going to see a low-scoring game. I saw so many points in the NFC and NFC Championship. I just imagine this is going to be like a 20-19 game, close to the vest type game. I think this is where the defenses shine. I think the Philly defense is elite. I think the Chiefs defense is elite. And it just seems like we always talk about playoff football. You need defense. And we know Philly has a run game and a defense, so I don't know if that'll be the benefited factor going into the victory if they win. But nonetheless, I think if you're going to bet to line, I'm definitely think this game goes under.
Oh, boy, I'm this week, my first My first reflex is we haven't had many Super Bowl stinkers. We are in a 21st century of classics almost every game. I guess the last stinker was probably the outdoor cold weather New York Super Bowl when Seattle surprisingly mauled Peyton Manning and the Broncos. Bo, my first reflex, Eagles blow them out. Chiefs been playing with fire. Eagles pound them.
It could be. Listen, I'm not going to be surprised. And you know me, I've not been on the Chiefs side. And I love the Chiefs. People think, you don't love the Chiefs? I'm like, no, I just didn't think they were going to be able to win these games. It's, and I tell them, if you go on the radio and you were a fourth down play, Dalton Kincaid doesn't make the catch, maybe to advance the ball, to make the field goal at the time of the game. For the Lions, you lost 2 weeks ago. Nobody cares that you lost to Washington, and you're going to be bitter, but I think the farther you get, the more the hurt hurts. And I just think if the Lions would have been fortunate enough to win and hosted the Eagles and lost, if they lose to the Eagles at home and the Eagles are still going to the Super Bowl, the Lions would be hurting. I think the farther you get, at least in my mind, that's where the hurt would resonate the most. And if you're a Lions fan, are you bitter? You are. Are you sad? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you didn't even make it to the Final Four. So there's two other, you got Washington, who's like, hey, what are you crying about? We beat you, and we came up short. So I think the Bills. The Bills.
Then who knocks on the door next year louder, Buffalo or Detroit?
Well, I love Detroit's team. I think the coaching side of it, Campbell's going to have to replace an OC and a DC. And maybe I mentioned last week, the transition internally of, can these guys, the new coaches, pick up where these other coaches left off. But I think when you have a good culture and you have a great team, I think that's not an easy transition. But unless you hire somebody who's a complete disaster, you're going to have success. And I think Detroit will definitely be back. Even at this point, I know they lost to Washington, and I know they've had some change at the positional coaches, the coordinators, if you will. But at this point, the way that team is, Brad Holmes, the way he's able to draft and find guys that are just super, super talented and capable of helping that team, I have no doubt as of today, January 28th, 29th, that the Lions will be the number one seed favorite, if you will, going into next year.
Who won the off-season coaching hires? Who won the open jobs, and who lost? Who was in first and who was in last?
Well, I think the Raiders were in last, but I love the hire of Pete Carroll, and I think the Bears with Ben Johnson. He did a great job with some great offensive pieces. You got Caleb Williams, who you want to develop. So I like that aspect of it, and we know Caleb Williams hinted at it. And he said, listen, I'm not trying to be selfish about this, but, I would, if we're going to hire a coach, they needed to, if he has an offensive background, that, he knew. And why
he
not?
didn't want an old D-line coach, no.
No. And I like that hire.
I love Pete Carroll, Bo. I love him being hired.
Yeah, I love it. Like I said, I think it's the worst part, but job-wise, I think you need a good, old-fashioned, good, hard-working, fun-loving guy like Pete Carroll to come into that. I think you tried some of the other things, and they got a long road ahead, and I just think you have the patience of a veteran like that. I think it's a wholesome hire. I guess it's like a warm cooked meal, if you will. You know what you're getting. This guy's been around the block, and I think they need a guy like that where you don't want everything to be brand new because there's too many other things that the Raiders need to have that must be new. There's so many holes, and I think having a voice like Pete Carroll can be a big benefactor to a quicker turnaround. Who knows how far, but at least a turnaround that, they want to come as fast as they can.
Where would you put the Cowboys head coach hire, Brian Schottenheimer? Where would you put that in the list of new coaching hires?
You know what? I mean, it's not change, and I think they don't want to get too far from the change. And at the end of the day, it's not a flashy hire, but I think it's a subtle hire that, Jerry Jones doesn't want to rock the boat, and he makes a lot of noise, but as much as he does talk, there's not a lot of change. Now we can talk about change every week if they're going to fire the coach, and we'll talk about it next year if they start slow. Hey, is Schottenheimer going to make the middle of the season? that's just part of playing for Jerry Jones. But I think at the end of the day, it is a franchise that has a strong base, and Schottenheimer's there. He knows what he knows what they want. He's part of it, and so I don't think there was any hire that was going to magically make the Cowboys a favorite. I still think they're going to be the same team that we talked about, going in. I think it's more of a roster rebuild, not a rebuild, but we know that they need some help here and there, and until they get that done, Schottenheimer, I don't think there's a magical coach out there that we can look at and say, hey, this is the guy.
They also brought in Matt Eberflus for the D coordinator position. I kind of like that move. I mean, I don't love the head coach move, but I kind of like.
I think I love it.
I like that one. I don't love him, but he's a good defensive coordinator.
Yeah, you got experience, and that's what
right.
you want for a team like that. You're not looking for, if you get some young hot shot coordinator to come in and change the fortune of the team, that's fantastic. But that's hard to do. So you got Schottenheimer, good long lineage of success in the league, and then you bring in Eberflus, who has head coaching material, and he got that head coaching job because he's a great D coordinator. So I like it, and they're not they're sound moves. They're not just let's take the hottest most flavored guy here. We're taking some guys that have long tenures in the league, have had success. We don't want to change things up. And as you said, Brian, you didn't want McCarthy. You're not happy with Schottenheimer. It's one of them things that's, I don't think there was any hire where you're going to be like, oh, yeah, maybe Ben Johnson. Maybe that would have been the guy.
That's very true, Ben.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I don't think there was a guy where you're like, this is the guy. Unless they, that's why I laugh. It's kind of like a Steelers thing. Even if they got rid of Tomlin, just say if they brought in Brian Schottenheimer, Steeler fans would be like, well, why did we do that? So, it's kind of be careful, what you wish for, you might get it.
That's right.
If I'm Jerry Jones, I tell Eberflus, you go to Michael Parsons and you tell him we got to have his best year of football this coming in 2025.
That's fair enough. To tell him we're going to pay him a lot of money once you do it. Right. That contract will be coming up. So
it is, but for him to get that money, he's got to produce. But we know you're on your way, as you always are, to Mobile, to the Senior Bowl. Down there, you're going to see a lot of quarterback potential, but also a lot of defensive potential. I'm looking at a mock draft right now, and I see Abdul Carter from Penn State. I see Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. I see Witt Williams, the edge rusher from Georgia. It feels like it's a defensive year and not as driven by quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's definitely a defensive year. And I think the quarterback process we talk about, it's, you're going to take one because you have to. But this particular class, though, Jackson Hurts from Ole Miss, he's a guy you probably know better than anybody. And then you got,
Jackson
Milroe.
Dart,
Yeah, Jackson Star. And then you got Milroe, two prominent names. I don't know if we'll have the success that we had last year. You think about, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, trying to think of a couple other quarterbacks down to Senior Bowl this past year. A ton of talent, and those guys all transitioned to have nice rookie seasons. So it's going to be a defensive-heavy draft, but I like the fact that there's some quarterbacks with some life that are going to be in Mobile, Alabama. And I'm leaving Dallas right now after I've been down here since Friday covering the Shrine game.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah,
I can't wait till you see in person, and then next week tell us about Luther Burden from Mizzou, the wide receiver.
Yeah, it's so funny you brought him up. There's certain guys you kind of you put on your in your notes, that you're excited to see get an opportunity maybe to put the microphone in front of and et cetera, and take some notes when we get to Hancock Stadium. I think that's the new place where South Alabama plays. So no more Lad Peoples.
No more Lad Peoples, but in South Alabama's got nice facilities now.
Oh, it's, listen, it is. And I know the people in Mobile, if they're listening, they're going to say, you know what, they're going to tell me to go somewhere I don't want to go. But, Lad Peoples, it's an old stadium. It's decrepit. It's old. These guys don't want to go on this tour and see, play in these places. And Alabama has state-of-the-art facilities or, new facilities, if you will. So it's a matter of just progressing the game and bringing it forward. And Nagy's done that And sell out at the stadium in South Alabama. So it's just part of progress. Listen, I had fun at Lad Peoples, and I've had fun at Hancock, so it's all good.
And Memphis Tiger quarterback Seth Hennigan will be there. So next week we want a Seth Hennigan Jackson Dart report.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hey, Chandler Martin, the Memphis linebacker, I thought he had a fantastic week of practice here in Frisco. They practice in North Texas in Denton, but well, I thought he had a great week. Just I know you guys are a Memphis base, and I'm not saying that. If you looked at my notes, I have number 50 written down. Chandler Martin a lot in my notes from this past week of practice.
I love it. That's a guy. He had an opportunity to come back to college, could have come back to Memphis, could have gone somewhere else, but said he wanted to test his luck professionally. So I'm glad he's cashing in on these opportunities. So it's going to be a fun week down in Mobile for you, Bo. I'm excited to hear about it next week, and we'll be even closer to the Super Bowl. As always, Bo, thanks so much, and safe travels down to South Alabama.
Thank you, guys. You guys have a safe week as well.
Thanks,
Thank you, Bo, so much. Thank you so much. Bo Marchant with us talking the NFL and the NFL draft. He's from collegetopro.com, and we got this week off before the real ramp up next week of Super Bowl 59 week in New Orleans. But I think Detroit should feel better going into the offseason than Buffalo, because Buffalo, they've had their swing at the pinata. I think they move out of the line, and Detroit moves ahead.
Yeah, I mean it's a good observation that both of y'all made earlier, kind of talking about, just it feels like, Buffalo might be that team, that really good team, really talented. In any other era or time, they would have multiple Super Bowl appearances, but because they're playing with the big bad Chiefs, maybe it's just not going to work out.
This is two eras that Buffalo can't crack through against super teams. Now, it was more than one team in the 4 losses, but 2 of the 4 to Dallas, 1 to Washington, and 1 to the Giants. It was the NFC East that kept knocking them out.
Yeah, and so, who knows? I think as long as they have that quarterback in Buffalo, they'll have a chance, but man, it just feels like at some point that opportunity is that door is gonna close, and it might be this year might have been that best opportunity to take advantage of it. But I'm excited for Bo. He goes down every year to the Senior Bowl. I'm looking forward to the report back next week, and certainly a handful of local guys down there, and so it'll be really fun to hear his thoughts, and glad to hear what he had to say about Chandler Martin last week. I know Chandler is now, I think this is his second. I think last week was his second or third kind of bowl invite that he had gotten, so I'm glad that he is really making the most of these opportunities.
He makes the team. He's on the opening day roster.
Yeah, I think so, and so I'm really happy for him that he's having a lot of success after the season ended. It's really, really cool to see. Well, before we get to a break, let me remind you about our 5 o'clock sponsor. It's Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Jaguar Bluff City has been the premier Jaguar dealership for the greater Memphis area since 1984, and their talented team is ready to help you find your next perfect vehicle at unbeatable rates. Swing by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City today and check out the new 2025 models like the 2025 Range Rover Sport, the 2025 Range Rover Velar, and the 2025 Defender. Test drive the Range Rover Sport, where luxury meets performance. It's a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility, with options ranging from 360 horsepower up to 635. It's also available as a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle with $7,500 federal tax credit when leased with approved credit. Take a look at the Range Rover Velar, powered by mild hybrid technology and enhanced with the latest well-being features and fully connected entertainment system. The Range Rover Velar is the ultimate luxury compact crossover. Purchase yours today and get special 4.4% for 72 months financing available with approved credit. Don't forget about the Defender, available in multiple models to fit your needs. The Defender is built for the modern explorer, and Jaguar Bluff City is offering special interest rates for 60 and 72 months on various models. Give them a call, 877-259-6169. Go online to jaguarbluffcity.com, but please go out there and test drive those beautiful new vehicles. 6335 Wheel Cove right there off of Quince for Bluff City Jaguar. Well, let's get to another break, and when we return, we'll talk about what's trending.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. to watch live video of our shows, stay up to date with station events, and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
Guns, guns, and more guns. Over 700 firearms in stock. Old fence guns, old guns, new guns, used guns, big guns, little guns. Every gun you can think of, Classic Arms has them. All brands like Glock, Sig, Colt, Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Browning, Beretta, Benelli, Remington, Winchester, and more. Guarantee lowest prices in town. Only gun and border in the Mid-South. Free gun inspections, appraisals, and free bar sighting for the upcoming deer season. Shop online at ClassicArmsInMemphis.com or visit Classic Arms at 1740 Georgia Parkway behind Parky's Barbecue in Cordova.
This ain't the little itty-bitty teeny-tiny bowl, it's the Super Bowl. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and the code is HEARD for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises. The Family Leisure floor model sale is happening right now through the end of January. Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2025 items are starting to arrive. All floor models are up to 50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even football tables from 20 to 60% off. Want beer seating? Family Leisure has theater seating up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool season. You can buy it and get on the installation schedule and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. If you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell the phone staff at Family Leisure that you heard this commercial. It's the floor model show. Now, through the end of January, Family Leisure, 100 I-40, family and fun come together.
Good afternoon. THP's on the scene of this accident. It's 40 westbound right at 269, right near the Fayette County, Shelby County line. It's got it backed up into Fayette County on this accident. That's 40 westbound. Again, right there at 269. It's got traffic slow. Of course, the heaviest flow of traffic's over on the eastbound side, headed out into Fayette County. Hey, Weimer's Jewelry, 7525 Highway 64 is your Valentine's Day headquarters. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you as we got about 30 minutes left in today's show. We got to talk about what's trending. A couple things I want to get to here during what's trending. But the first thing, trade deadline about a week away for the NBA. More news coming out as we get closer. The biggest news today, Suns and Warriors are both actively pursuing Jimmy Butler. Those seem to be the two names out there. The Warriors were a team a couple weeks ago that were in there. Price was a little too high. The report I was reading earlier said that they're hoping that with everything that's going on with Jimmy Butler right now, that price might be dropping a little bit. Maybe they could get in the mix. Suns as well. We know that is where Jimmy Butler would like to go. And then maybe the biggest headline of the day out of the NBA. This came from Shams earlier this afternoon. The Kings are expected to open up talks to potentially deal All-Star De'Aaron Fox before the trade deadline. And since that report came out, it's starting to sound like both him and the Spurs are very interested in each other, and that we could see a trade between the Spurs and the Kings involving De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, he's not going to be out of the West. We know that. No. We know Jimmy Butler will probably end up in the West. In Sacramento, after the good year 2 years ago, probably the full realization that they weren't as close as they probably thought they were.
Yeah.
And you have to recognize that. And I think they are in making deals around that. He has been great with them, and he will make Wembanyama a lot better.
Yeah, and you're starting to see it. I think we knew it was going to happen, but they go out there, they win the Wembanyama sweepstakes, and everyone knows. Yeah, everyone knows that he is going to be great. He's already well on his way, and guys want to play with that. And so you're seeing, a lot of people wanting to go and join that San Antonio team, and certainly De'Aaron Fox down there, some of the other young pieces they have. We could be talking about another era of a really good Spurs team.
Not just because we're here, but the Grizzlies are a lot more serious a franchise than Sacramento.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, Sacramento, it felt like, 2 years ago, that, hey, look out for them. Here they come. They've got a lot of talent. They're really young. They're a fun team. And now this year, with the way it started and everything, I mean, it feels like it's going to be a quick blow up and kind of back to being Sacramento.
And kind of a warmed over New Orleans.
Yeah.
You're always waiting, and you keep waiting.
Yeah, and that one has been, maybe more of a surprise because it's been more of injuries. And, you go out there and you get Zion, and when he's out there, he's fantastic. But it's just he's never out there. Brandon Ingram is dealt with a handful of injuries, and now it feels like he really wants out. And so, yeah, I mean, those two teams looked like they could be big-time factors in the West. And now it looks like soon they'll kind of both be down there at the bottom.
Do you want the Grizzlies to sit still at deadline?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I would not be surprised if they make a move at the deadline. I don't think it will be a big splashy move. I think it will be kind of around the edges, kind of cutting some of that depth, maybe moving, some small pieces.
All right, we've asked this. Who's going to be in it that the fans don't want to see go out? Because somebody's got to go out for somebody to come in.
Yeah. Maybe Brandon Clark. I think that could be a guy.
What about Kennard? What would be the order of fans irritated they're going out. I think Clark would be one.
I think Clark kind of fits that mold of I wouldn't be surprised
Kennard
if we
2,
saw him move.
Laravia 3.
Yeah, and even with Kennard and Laravia, I think most people don't really factor those two guys in future plans for the Grizzlies. I mean, it feels like a lot of
somebody's got to be in a deal.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
They're not in a vacuum.
Exactly, and it's not just, hey, get and don't give, but I think you look at this team right now, and certainly they could add some players, and I think could get better, but you look at the depth, and it's a lot of guys on that bench, and you can't feed everybody, and so maybe I remembered, I don't know why I was even thinking about it earlier today, but some of those moves, I think it was last year at the deadline, some of those kind of moves of, oh wow, they decided to trade Tillman, and so I think you could maybe see one of those that maybe not a super splashy, maybe not one that you really expected, but just something at the deadline to change some things up.
Jimmy Butler would be splashy, especially to either Los Angeles teams.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it feels like.
Is it workable for the Lakers with him?
I don't think so. It could, but
Lakers don't like sitting still.
No, they don't. And I mean, they made one move. What was it? A couple weeks ago? I guess about a month ago at this point.
The league kind of always plugs the deal in for them, even when it probably shouldn't work for everybody else.
It's quiet out there. I think they go out and make a deal, but it feels like we talked about it, I guess, last week that Jimmy Butler is going to be able to push his way out of Miami and land wherever he wants to land, and it feels like right now, at least, that place is in Phoenix.
I think it's an extraordinarily bad look for him and for the league to let it happen. I mean, what does the CBA mean? And you just don't hear a peep from anybody on his team because they may be trying it someday and they want to be loyal to the fellow player. And if anybody stood up and really criticized it, he would be the worst guy in the league.
Yeah, he would. That's the crazy thing about it. I mean, you have and I didn't see this report. We talked about it yesterday, him getting suspended again. I did not hear this report until we were done with the show. But it sounds like him getting suspended again was because he walked out of practice. And, in the middle of practice,
any other workplace in America, that's dereliction of the highest order. But we know sports is not any other workplace.
and I'm sure a lot of those guys are, well, what are you doing? You're walking out. But again, can't say anything because you don't want to be that guy that is taking a stance against a fellow player.
It could be you wanting to blow yourself out of a place.
It absolutely could be.
You're seeing these quotes from Mark Davis, son of Al Davis, who owns the Las Vegas Raiders, about the Pete Carroll hire and how central Tom Brady was to the coaching hire. I'm going to say this now and not again before the Super Bowl. Next Sunday, Super Bowl 59 should be the last one he calls.
Yeah, I mean,
he is an owner.
Yeah, and it feels like we were kind of asking at first, okay, he's an owner, but how in the conversations is he going to be? And now everyone's just throwing out there he was pivotal. I mean, he was right there in the decision process.
Instrumental. I mean, primary. Yeah. This is not some passive. Like Jay-Z was with the Nets.
Right,
this is,
right.
I mean, he's really in these meetings. The quote, bringing in Tom Brady was bringing in somebody on the football side that I'd been lacking having here in the organization. And then he goes on to say, almost like it was a martyr, like he was done wrong, said John Gruden had his head chopped off. He put his head under the guillotine.
He did. Yeah, he did it to himself. I love that reference with Jay-Z. I almost forgot about that. That's it's a good reference.
And it was laughable then. Somebody did the big breakdown on it. You literally have people with season ticket and suite luxury box that had a bigger investment than he did.
Oh yeah. Well, I think
it was just a sham.
Yeah. Well, I think your favorite, the punter, Pat McAfee, he has J.J. Watt on his show every week, and J.J. Watt, I learned this from Connor because Connor loves the Pat McAfee show. Connor told me that J.J. Watt has an ownership stake in the Burnley Soccer Club over in England. And so, that's kind of how I think of, like, what we wanted Tom Brady, the owner, to be. Of like, okay, he's an owner, it's fun, but what's he going to do
Just
with it?
funsies.
Yeah, that's what J.J. Watt, what does J.J. Watt know about professional soccer in England? But no, this is Tom Brady, who is an expert of the game of American football, owning an NFL team, or being an owner of an NFL team. You knew he was going to be a part of the decision-making process.
I don't care if his stake's $185.
That's right.
He is an owner.
If he is
and
in
if
the
you're
room
that, you
with
can't
those
be an
decisions,
announcer.
yes, exactly. It's,
now, here's my theory on why the league is kind of taking a powder on it and letting it go.
Okay.
They know that punishment for Deflategate was beyond ridiculous.
Yeah.
And to humiliate the face of the league like they did over that silliness.
Yep.
And the big scheme of transgressions in sport, it is so very myopic. But somebody was wanting the Patriots to pay in that stretch with the video stuff and all the controversy that had been around, and Brady had to be the one, and the league knew they overstepped. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, no, you're right about that, and I wouldn't put it past
They did
them.
not overstep with John Gruden.
No, no, they did not. Brett, last thing I wanted to get to very quickly, I'm seeing this, I believe there was a story earlier today in the Daily Memphian, but it sounds like Simmons Bank, we've kind of been talking about this, sounds like Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium is expected to have a capacity between 42,000 and 44,000 when everything is all said and done prior to the start of 2026. That would
We've been saying
include
it the entire time.
Phase 3. Yes, we've been saying it now. It looks like
years
it's
ago,
being official.
Laird Veach told athletics department subordinates, get me a capacity around 41 to 43,000.
Yep.
That's all we want. That's been. I mean, I promise you, if you're shocked by this, you're the most naive, dumb human in town.
Head in the sand.
And the ones that will feign shock over it should know better.
Yes, no, they absolutely should. But a little bit of an update there on Tiger football and what the stadium situation will look like in the future.
That's enough for the Memphis Tigers.
Oh, yeah.
That's not enough for the Liberty Bowl and the Southern Heritage Classic.
No, it's not. And I saw the quotes from Ed Scott this morning that said his focus is on Memphis football, and
it should be.
That is his prime.
That's all he should worry about.
Exactly.
And he owns the stadium now.
That's right. And so I like the quotes from Ed Scott earlier today.
I have no quibble with Scott. The quibble I have with the wanting to be naive crowd that was trying to tell me, oh, no, it's going to be 58 or 59, and I'm knowing the whole time that it's not. So here we are.
Yeah, here we are. A little bit of an update for Tiger football. Let's go ahead and get to our final break of the day, and when we return, we'll wrap up today's show with Crunch Time.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56.
Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday, happy hour from 3 to 6. $1 off all draft meals, $5 off meal drinks, $4.50 for house wine, and taco, pretzels, mozzarella sticks, queso, $4 a day. Monday through Friday night lights from 7 to closing. Dining and lunch grill Wednesday, 5 free on one country.
cancer is the leading cancer killer in men under 50 and the second leading cause of cancer death for women under 50. The American College of Radiology urges you to get screened starting at age 45. Now, Medicare and insurance companies are required to cover not only colonoscopy, but less invasive exams like virtual colonoscopy. Talk to your doctor about your options. For more information on virtual colonoscopy, visit radiologyinfo.org/virtual CT.
Furnished by American College of Radiology.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about everything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys, beyond the bottle, Tito's has gained a reputation for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits around the world to serve its community and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's and learn more at Tito'sVodka.com. 40% alcohol by volume, mainly 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
Pretty cool, and we're just getting started, so.
Spanning the globe.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
This is for all the biggest crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that? Goodbye! Hello, Haskins.
It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin, this baby is over.
Well, Brett, what I learned today is that this year's NBA trade deadline could be a somewhat splashy trade deadline with Jimmy Butler working his way out of Miami. That will certainly be a story. Now we know De'Aaron Fox could be on the table and could be moved around trade time, so it could really be a busy trade deadline. I know I've heard reports that a lot of teams are holding off and waiting to make moves until the Jimmy Butler deal is done, because what a lot of people are predicting is that this is going to have to be a 3, 4, maybe even a 5-team trade to get everything to work out and get the trade to be able to be completed. And so with so many teams needing to be involved in this trade, that people are waiting and holding off to make the trades. I know Lonzo Ball, who just returned to the court after 2 years of not playing, he is a guy that it sounds like Chicago could move. I saw a report from Chicago saying that they could move everybody on their team except for the rookies. And so it seems like maybe this could be the year that the Bulls make a lot of deals. But we'll see with the trade deadline only about a week away.
What I learned today is Joey Brackett's Joe Lenardi with 13 from the SEC. That's everybody. That's quite an achievement for January 28th. But I think about the 3 that's left out: Arkansas and Cal Heath, South Carolina and LSU. South Carolina and LSU have both been to a Final Four since Arkansas's most recent Final Four appearance. Wow. Arkansas's most recent Final Four appearance 30 years ago exactly, 1995. Anyone 40 or younger, it's just a highlight reel to them about Arkansas's basketball success, and that's really Arkansas' sport is basketball.
It's a really good point. It is, and they need to start turning things around with that basketball program. That is for sure. Another thing that I learned today, and I'm thrilled about, was the news earlier today. Brent touched on it a little bit, but the national championship tip time getting moved up 8:50 Eastern, so 7:50 Central Time. That is 30 minutes earlier than the typical start time. Anything helps. Anything earlier will
Instead of one sleepy moment, it will be one shining moment.
It will be one shining moment, which will be a lot of fun. But what I could have done without today, it's got to be what we saw from the Grizzlies last night. Not only the final score in the blowout loss on the road to the Knicks, but the way it happened, the way the guys were out there playing, maybe the buy-in factor in last night's game. Now, we already said it earlier. We're going to right now say it's a one-off. It was a tough game on the road against a good team in New York. Let's see how they respond on Thursday, but if they come out and play the same way, they'll get blasted again by the Rockets. You'll be talking about 0-4 against the Rockets, and then we'll be talking about problems.
It's a one-off until it's not.
Exactly.
A little bit like some of the Tiger performances until you had the good one. I could have done without. Stop with the Mahomes. If he wins, he's already better than Brady. 7 tops 4 if he wins. That's easy math. 7 is more than 4.
That's right.
That's really easy math. And all those Super Bowl records that Brady will still have, even with a monster Super Bowl 59 by Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
He's good, but he's not better yet. He may end up being.
Yeah. Still a lot of time where he can be, but you're right. Not yet. Where are you beaming tonight?
Thompson Bowling Arena, Kentucky at Tennessee. And I don't think it's officially Thompson Bowling anymore. Didn't they get a new name?
Oh, maybe they did. I don't know.
I think it's like Food City Arena.
Oh, it might be. I think you're right.
I think it is.
It's Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center. How
Still
about that?
TBA to me. TBA, it was built to try and match Rupp, and tonight it will be rocking 10.5-point favorites for Tennessee. Kentucky, they lead all time 161 to 178, almost double. They lead in Knoxville. They lead at neutral. They lead at Rupp. They lead everywhere against Tennessee. It's what Tennessee's always had as the standard to try to get to, and that's Big Blue Nation, like everybody else in the SEC.
It absolutely is. Beam me to the later game tonight on SEC Network. We talked about it earlier. Oklahoma and Texas A&M. I think a big game for both of these teams. Oklahoma, back-to-back wins. Can they continue to build off that with a signature win on the road? And for Texas A&M, coming off a loss against Texas, can they bounce back, get back in the win column?
If Oklahoma's in the tournament, then it's not that many good teams out there. You got to have 68 in. They are at A&M tonight. Richard Cross doing that game tonight on TV. Must win for Georgia at home against South Carolina. A lot of these home games feel like must. U of L, Louisville at home against Wake. 4 NBA games. Lakers in Philly on TNT in about a half hour. Houston at Atlanta. Utah at Golden State, and Milwaukee and Portland.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that game for the Rockets, a makeup game from a couple weeks ago when we had that winter storm come through. We'll see if they continue their winning ways before we'll see them on Thursday night at FedEx Forum. But that's all the time we have today. Enjoy your night. We'll talk to you again tomorrow afternoon.